Chapter 2309, 2309 Prophecy, 2309 Prophecy. The martial Tao Prime Body spoke once more and chanted Buddhist sutras. Prajna Nirvana Sutra. The golden Sanskrit words gathered around him and lightened his body, allowing him to break free from Emperor Bo Sun's control for the time being. He grabbed Heavenly Wolf and took another half-step towards the entrance of the passage. Emperor Bo Sun's expression changed. Since you know the cultivation technique of the infinite great emperor, all the more I can't let you leave. His eyes were deep as he attacked once more. Through the void, Fiend Chi burst forth from his palm and coiled around the martial Tao Prime Body like pitch-black vines. After being targeted by Emperor Bo Sun, the martial Tao Prime Body realized that he could no longer escape. The golden Buddhist light that helped them defend against Emperor Bo Sun's attack earlier on dimmed as well. It was clear that it could not hold on any longer. The entrance of the passage was about to close. Suddenly, Heavenly Wolf felt his body lighten. For some reason, the suction force from below vanished. Heavenly Wolf carried Yin Beichen and charged out of the passage instantly. Instinctively, he turned back and saw that the black vines on the martial Tao Prime Body were increasing. The golden Sanskrit formed by the Prajna Nirvana Sutra was completely drowned. It was over. Heavenly Wolf's eyes widened and his heart sank. He realized that the martial Tao Prime Body no longer had a chance to escape. Hurry and go. The martial Tao Prime Body hollered. Protect Yin Beichun. As long as they escaped from Avici, the Azura Monastery monks guarding Great Taiwei Mountain would definitely notice the commotion. At that time, heavenly kings or even emperors of the pure land of bliss might appear. Emperor Bo Sun had been trapped in Avici for so many years. Even if he was still alive, it would be difficult for him to recover to his peak combat strength. As long as the emperor experts of the Buddhist monasteries were alarmed, Emperor Bo Sun would not be bothered with Heavenly Wolf and Yin Beichen. The two of them might be able to survive. The moment the exit of the passage closed, the martial Tao Prime Body used his spirit consciousness and erased the restriction planted on Heavenly Wolf Essence Spirit. The martial Tao Prime Body did not have much emotions towards Heavenly Wolf. However, he knew that under such circumstances, only Heavenly Wolf could protect Yin Beichen and return to the Fiend domain alive. At the same time, Heavenly Wolf felt the shackles on his essence spirit vanish. The exit of the passage had already shrunk to the size of a fist. Through the hole, the figure of the martial Tao Prime Body could be seen. He was already drowned by countless black vines and fell into the endless abyss. The exit of the passage was completely closed and the void returned to normal. The martial Tao Prime Body would stay in Avici forever. For some reason, Heavenly Wolf's heart was moved. An unprecedented feeling surged into his heart. The final act of this master that he had never truly acknowledged before his death was to give him eternal freedom. Heavenly Wolf's eyes were red as he grit his teeth and thought to himself, "Don't worry, as long as I'm alive, I'll definitely protect Yin Beichen." Heavenly Wolf did not stop and sprinted all the way. Carrying Yin Beichen, he charged out of the passage and escaped from Avici, charging towards Great Taiwei Mountain. On the other side, on Great Taiwei Mountain, the monks of Azura Monastery sensed something as well and soared into the air, looking in the direction of Taiwei Mountain. The monks of Azura Monastery saw a spatial tunnel appear outside Avici. What's going on? Someone managed to create a passage from Avici? Impossible. How can there be living beings in Avici? Don't forget, some time ago, a purple-robed man with a silver mask and a moon-devouring Heavenly Wolf entered Avici. You mean to say that they're still alive? The monks of Azura Monastery discussed fervently. Everyone could sense that something seemed to have happened in Avici of Taiwei Mountain. Should we head over and take a look? A monk suggested. Just as the monks of Azura Monastery were hesitating, a figure with a silver glow flew out from the exit above Taiwei Mountain. Pissed. The monks of Azura Monastery were shocked and their expressions changed. There were truly living beings that escaped from Avici. This was an unprecedented situation in history that had broken some sort of a taboo. It's that moon-devouring heavenly wolf. A monk of Azura Monastery recognized Heavenly Wolf and exclaimed, "How is that possible? This heavenly wolf has just entered the heaven essence realm. To think that it could escape from Avici alive? What's up with that spatial tunnel? Given the power of this moon-devouring heavenly wolf, there's no way it can open up a spatial tunnel." As the monks of Azura Monastery argued, the heavenly wolf sped over at an extremely fast speed with a figure on its back. "Senior brother, should we stop it?" a monk asked softly. "Who's going to stop it?" A monk of Azura Monastery at the side said with lingering fear, "Indeed, the cultivation realm of this heavenly wolf isn't high. However, don't forget, it's the only living being that managed to escape from Avici alive." Upon hearing that, the monks of Azura Monastery could not help but shudder. Nobody knew the background of this heavenly wolf or what methods it had to be able to come out of Avici alive. "Let it pass," an elder of Azura Monastery said in a deep voice. "Judging from its direction, it should be returning to the Fiend domain. As long as it hasn't entered the Pure Land of Bliss, there's no need for us to stop it." Pausing for a moment, the Azura Monastery elder continued, "Hurry, inform Putua Monastery about the commotion at Avici and send a detailed message." The moment he said that, a monk took out a few messenger talismans from his storage bag and tore them apart with his essence chi. A few divine lights entered the void and vanished instantly. When they saw that, the monks of Azura Monastery heaved a sigh of relief. They could not deal with the abnormal activity of Avici. The only way to find out what happened in Taiwei Mountain was when the accomplished monks and experts of the Pure Land arrived. Heavenly Wolf carried Yin Beichin and arrived at Azura Monastery before long. Initially, he thought that there would be a fierce battle. However, he did not expect that no monk would stop him after he crossed the skies of Azura Monastery. The monks of Azura Monastery watched him leave with fear in their eyes. Heavenly Wolf did not have time to think and sprinted towards the ancient teleportation formation. He had to leave this place as soon as possible. Before long, the accomplished monks of the Buddhist monasteries would arrive. At the same time, Emperor Bo Sun could break free from Avici at any moment. At that time, there was a high chance that a huge battle with the Buddhist monasteries would break out on Taiwei Mountain. Before long, Heavenly Wolf arrived at the teleportation formation and looked back in the direction of Azura Monastery. Suddenly, he recalled the scene of them arriving at Azura Monastery. At that time, the abbot of Azura Monastery's Dao heart wavered, as though he had gone into chi deviation and spouted nonsense. "He's back. Bo Sun is back." To think that the abbot of Azura Monastery's words would come true like a prophecy. Chapter 2310, 2310 Send you on your way. 2310 Send you on your way. Avici. The body of the martial Dao prime body was filled with pitch-black vines, and he fell into the abyss. In the blink of an eye, he was pulled in front of Emperor Bo Sun. The golden Sanskrit words conjured around the martial Dao prime body were completely devoured by the black vines. However, he did not give up and propped up the 9 fate rings, circulating the heaven and earth furnace to defend against Emperor Bo Sun's attacks with all his might. "What nonsense are you cultivating?" Emperor Bo Sun's fiendish appearance was sinister as he sneered with a dark gaze. "Truly too weak and can't withstand a single blow." The moment he said that, the pitch-black vines that coiled around the martial Dao prime body tightened. Crack, crack, crack. The 9 fate rings flickered purple and let out creaking sounds as though they could collapse at any moment. "Shatter!" Emperor Bo Sun hollered softly. Boom! The 9 fate rings that were condensed by the will and dermic formulation of the martial Dao collapsed instantly, turning into countless shards that fell into the martial Dao furnace. Ever since the 9 fate rings were formed, they had always been indestructible and could even take on countless divine weapons. But now, they could not defend against the suppression of absolute strength at all. Many pitch-black vines landed on the blazing martial Dao furnace. Raging flames surged and the pitch-black vines sizzled as thick smoke billowed. "Interesting," When Emperor Bo Sun saw that the bloodline phenomenon of the martial Tao prime body could still refine his fiend chi, he could not help but grin, revealing a row of white teeth. However, in the blink of an eye, he retracted his smile and changed the topic. However, you're still too weak. The fiend chi on the martial Tao prime body intensified and his strength increased exponentially. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared on the martial Tao furnace. Before long, it exploded. The martial Tao prime body spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Ever since the prime body was born, he had never tasted defeat. With an invincible might, he overwhelmed all the strong foes in the world and suppressed everything. He had never been so severely injured before. The difference in strength between the two of them was way too great. Although the martial Tao prime body was a variable and created the martial Tao, it could not make up for the difference between them. Without the 9 fate rings and heaven and earth furnace, the fiend chi surged into the body of the martial Tao prime body instantly and swept through his 8 meridians, limbs, and organs like a storm. Before long, the bloodline, bones, and organs of the martial Tao prime body were dyed black. Even the consciousness of the martial Tao prime body turned into a dark abyss. Only a purple essence spirit emitted a faint glow, and its body was still burning with purple flames. How do you know the Prajna Nirvana Sutra? Emperor Bo soon asked. The martial Tao prime body remained silent with a cold expression. Tell me the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and submit to me. I can spare your life and even grant you an opportunity. Emperor Bo Sun added. The martial Tao prime body was still silent. The martial Tao was fearless. How could he submit to others? If the martial Tao prime body were to submit to Emperor Bo Sun right now in order to survive, his Tao would collapse completely and he would never have the chance to continue. What was the point of the prime body's existence if the martial Tao was severed? I won't give you a third chance. Emperor Bo Sun smirked sinisterly. What sort of status did he have? As an emperor expert, he had already given the martial Tao prime body 2 chances. That was already a great honor. His eyes shone with a strange glint and 2 black beams of light entered the eyes of the martial Tao prime body. Soul-searching art. Emperor Bo Sun did not engage the martial Tao prime body and used the soul-searching art right away. A black streak of light appeared in the consciousness of the martial Tao prime body and coiled towards his essence spirit. However, the moment the black light coiled forward, it was burned by the flames on the martial Tao essence spirit and turned into wisps of green smoke, vanishing. Back when the martial Tao prime body condensed his martial spirit, it was a ball of flames. This essence spirit was actually formed from the martial spirit fire. The only way to search for the soul of the martial Tao prime body was if the martial spirit fire was extinguished. However, the extinguishing of the martial spirit fire also meant that Emperor Bo Sun would not be able to obtain any memories with the death of the martial Tao prime body. Emperor Bo Sun frowned slightly. Given his strength, it was naturally easy for him to extinguish the martial spirit fire. However, if that was the case, he would gain nothing. After pondering for a moment, Emperor Bo Sun's heart skipped a beat as he laughed sinisterly. It's fine even if I can't search your soul. I've got ways to make you sink into the fiend Tao and submit to me. Emperor Bo Sun's figure seemed to have vanished, turning into a wisp of black smoke that surrounded the martial Tao prime body. Suddenly, a decadent sound sounded in the ears of the martial Tao prime body as many demonesses appeared before him. They twisted their bodies and revealed enchanting appearances that were intoxicating. Emperor Bo Sun wanted to use his fiend Tao heart to assimilate the martial Tao prime body completely. The impact of Emperor Bo Sun releasing a fiend technique with his full strength was much greater than the Jidu saber. However, the martial Tao prime body closed his eyes and defended his Tao heart to the death. No matter what scene or sound appeared in his mind, he was unmoved. There was no self, human, living being or longevity. The pink skeleton, white skin, flesh and bones, everything was empty. If the perceived form is falsehoods, let the truth prevail. No matter how Emperor Bo Sun tried, He could not affect the will of the martial Tao. This scene resembled Buddha's enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree in the past. The descent of the ancient Fiend Bo Sun disrupted, tempted, and obstructed Buddha's cultivation. The current Emperor Bo Sun was comparable to the ancient Fiend Bo Sun of the past. Yet, the cultivation realm of the martial Tao prime body was far inferior to the Buddha of the past. However, be it the martial Tao prime body or Buddha's Tao heart, they were firm as a rock and unshakable. After the trial of the Tao heart stairs and the condensation of 10th stone step, it was almost impossible for Emperor Bo Sun to demonize the Tao heart of the martial Tao prime body. Give up? A moment later, the martial Tao prime body suddenly spoke. Emperor Bo Sun's figure reappeared with a hint of shock and anger in his eyes. He had put in immense effort and even felt mentally exhausted. However, this person could still speak as though he was not affected at all. He had just reappeared and had yet to return to the heavenly world to display his divine powers. But now, he was repeatedly frustrated by this puny cultivator. Emperor Bo Sun was enraged. You let Heavenly Wolf off on purpose? Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body said. Given the situation back then, the martial Tao prime body and Heavenly Wolf were at the edge of the passage. Given Emperor Bo Sun's capabilities, Heavenly Wolf would not have been able to escape if he wanted to keep the latter here. The only possibility was that Emperor Bo Sun let Heavenly Wolf off intentionally. You can tell? Emperor Bo Sun grinned. You're so smart that I almost can't bear to kill you. Although Emperor Bo Sun was smiling, the coldness in his eyes intensified. However, the fact that you can't be turned into a fiend and refuse to submit to me either displeases me immensely. Emperor Bo Sun said coldly, I know of a punishment that is 10,000 times more terrifying than killing you. It will cause you to sink into eternal misery and torment. The martial Tao prime body's heart sank. Right then, Emperor Bo Sun's voice sounded, Greater Avici is beneath. I'll send you on your way. Chapter 2311, 2311, Bo Sun's Return. 2311, Bo Sun's Return. Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body felt a tremendous force push him down. The 9 fate rings shattered, and the heaven and earth furnace collapsed. His body was already penetrated by pitch-black fiend chi, and his bones, organs, and bloodline were pitch-black. He could not defend against it at all. Furthermore, the Avici gate beneath emitted a powerful devouring power. The pitch-black vortex spun continuously, and the black air currents surged and changed. It was as though malevolent ghosts were wailing behind the door as countless menacing faces appeared, seemingly trying to devour Su Zimo and tear him apart. Countless pale arms seemed to extend from the pitch-black door and grabbed the body of the martial Tao prime body, yanking him into Avici with all their might. Mara Mask. Suddenly, Emperor Bo Sun thought of something and wanted to head down to retrieve the Mara Mask from the martial Tao prime body. However, the moment he moved, he suddenly paused and looked at the pitch-black vortex beneath with deep fear in his eyes. Even he was not confident that he could break free from the Avici gate. With that slight delay, the martial Tao prime body was devoured by the Avici gate and vanished completely. Emperor Bo Sun composed himself before long. Losing the Mara Mask was not a big deal for him. He had no intention of keeping the Mara Mask and Jidu Saber by his side with his return this time round. That was the reason why he gave the Jidu Saber to Yin Baichen. Emperor Bo Sun raised his head slightly and murmured, as though he could see through the layers of space, Pure land of bliss, here I come. The teleportation formation of Azura Monastery shone brightly. Before long, more than 10 figures appeared, all of them monks with shaved heads. The 3 people in the lead had powerful auras and were arhats of the Buddhist monasteries, perfected one-realm experts. The monks behind the 3 of them were also high-level heaven immortals. Greetings, senior brothers of Putual Monastery. The monks of Azura Monastery hurried forward and bowed. These monks were Putual Monastery, which was located in Jambudvipa of the Pure Land of Bliss. With Mount Meru as the center, the Pure Land of Bliss had a total of 9 mountains and 8 oceans. Surrounding Mount Meru were 4 other continents: Jambudvipa in the south, Purvavidaha in the east, Aparagodania in the west, and Uttarkuru in the north. Taiwei Mountain was located to the south of the Pure Land of Bliss. Therefore, among the 4 continents, Jambudvipa was the closest to Taiwei Mountain. There were 5 Buddhist monasteries in Jambudvipa, and they were all heaven-grade sects and factions. Putual Monastery was one of them. The establishment of the Azura Monastery here to watch over Taiwei Mountain was also the result of a joint decision of the 5 Buddhist monasteries. What's going on? Xianbai, one of the 3 arhats of Putual Monastery, asked in a deep voice. An Azura Monastery elder stood out and recounted the entire process of the martial Tao prime body and Heavenly Wolf barging into the monastery, entering Avici, and Heavenly Wolf escaping. He entered Avici and escaped alive? Disbelief appeared on Arhat Xianbai's face as he frowned. How is that possible? The other monks of Putual Monastery shook their heads as well. Ever since the Infinite Era, countless years had passed, and there were always some cultivators and living beings who were willing to take the risk to explore the secrets of Avici. However, throughout history, there had never been a living being that could come out of Avici alive. Furthermore, the moon-devouring Heavenly Wolf that ran out was only a Grade 1 Heaven Immortal. It's absolutely true. The Azura Monastery elder said hurriedly. All the monks in our monastery witnessed it personally. There's no mistake. Even what you see personally might not be the truth. Another arhat of Putual Monastery shook his head. There's no lack of illusion techniques in the Dharmic Tao that can deceive one's senses. Any perfected one-realm expert can cause you guys to see illusions. The monks of Azura Monastery were at a loss. The arhat of Putual Monastery was not wrong. It was way too unbelievable that a living being could leave Avici alive. Even in the depths of their hearts, they could not believe it. Another Azura Monastery elder said, however, isn't it too much of a coincidence for such a commotion to happen right after someone entered Avici? Arhat Xianbai pondered for a moment. Since we're here, let's go take a look. With that said, Arhat Xianbai stood up and walked towards Taiwei Mountain first. The dozens of monks from Putual Monastery and Azura Monastery followed suit. The monks had merely crossed half of the strait and had yet to arrive at Taiwei Mountain when a violent fluctuation came from above Taiwei Mountain. They froze and stopped in their tracks hurriedly. Avici was ahead of Taiwei Mountain, and any activity would cause one's heart to skip a beat. Boom! A loud bang sounded from Taiwei Mountain, and the entire place shook slightly. Ha 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 ha! Suddenly, wild laughter sounded from Taiwei Mountain excitedly. The laughter reverberated through Taiwei Mountain endlessly and was filled with a strange fiend power. Immediately after, a pitch-black fiend chi burst forth from Taiwei Mountain and surged into the clouds, covering the entire skies above the monks. Initially, the skies were blue. In the blink of an eye, dark clouds filled the skies with fiend chi. Pissed! The monks were shocked and gasped. The laughter came from the depths of Taiwei Mountain and Avici. In other words, someone had truly come out of Avici alive. Hurry! Inform the Heavenly King experts of the Pure Land that a fiend has appeared from Avici. Arhat Xianbai reacted right away and slapped his storage bag, crushing a jade talisman. The other 2 arhats crushed a jade talisman in their storage bags hurriedly as well. Ha ha ha! Right then, an even wilder laughter sounded. It was incomparably ear-piercing, like tiny bugs that burrowed into the 7 orifices of the monks. In midair, the monks had pained expressions and hugged their heads with both hands, wanting to isolate the laughter. However, all of those actions were futile. Even the 3 arhat experts of Putual Monastery seemed vulnerable against that laughter. None of the monks realized that blood was flowing endlessly from their 7 orifices. The monks of Azura Monastery walked out one after another as well. Instantly, the skies changed and turned dark as sand and rocks flew. Black cyclones swept through the entire monastery, and countless ancient structures were destroyed by them. They collapsed and turned into ruins. Terrifying laughter sounded, and many Azura Monastery monks could not defend against it at all. They fell to the ground one after another and died. That single laugh caused countless monks to die. Arhat Shinbai and the other monks could no longer hold on in midair. They tried their best to open their eyes wide. Their eyes were bloodshot, and their vision was blurry. Through the blood color, an incomparably tall fiend shadow rose slowly from Tai Wei Mountain ahead. Standing on the peak of Tai Wei Mountain, it looked as though it was indomitable. Its black hair danced wildly, and its fiendish eyes were pitch black as it looked down on the masses. Chapter 23:12 23:12 Heaven of the Great Fiend. 23:12 Heaven of the Great Fiend. Suddenly, the fiend's shadow opened its mouth and took a deep breath. Arhat Shinbai and the other monks felt the life force in their bodies draining rapidly. In just a few breaths, the monks in midair were sucked dry of their essence blood and turned into skinny corpses that fell from midair into the ocean between the two mountains. At the peak of Tai Wei Mountain, Emperor Bo Sun's face turned redder and his aura turned darker. "How dare you act so brazenly in the pure land of bliss, fiend?" A dignified voice sounded like the roar of a lion from behind the dark clouds that blanketed the skies. Right on the heels of that, a blazing beam of light tore through the dark clouds and shone down with a divine golden light. A monk descended along with the beam of light and was bathed in a golden aura. He wielded a fiend vanquishing Vajra staff and glared at Emperor Bo Sun angrily. A heavenly king of Putual Monastery had descended. Heavenly kings were Grotto Heaven realm experts and were equivalent to immortal kings of the Nine Firmament Immortal domain. Dong! Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out from the world. It was neither loud nor soft, but it seemed to be able to pierce one's heart. A heavenly king of one of the 5 Buddhist monasteries of Jambudvipa, Great Zen Monastery, appeared with a wooden fish in his hands. The sound earlier on was the deafening sound of knocking on the wooden fish. Umitba. Another Sanskrit sound echoed through the world. The pitch-black firmaments were torn apart by the Sanskrit sound, revealing a gigantic crack as resplendent light spilled onto the world. Another heavenly king appeared. He had nothing in his hands and a burning gaze. He wore a golden kasaya and had a powerful aura. The heavenly king was from one of the 5 Buddhist monasteries, Maha Monastery. After the heavenly king of Maha Monastery appeared, 2 more heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries followed suit. One of the heavenly kings was plump and had huge ears. His earlobes almost fell to his shoulders, and he held a string of prayer beads in his hands with a big belly. This heavenly king was from Umitba Monastery. The other heaven Immortal wielded a Zen staff and looked the youngest. He was only middle-aged and walked over in huge strides. He was from Vesa Monastery. Heavenly kings from all 5 Buddhist monasteries of Jambudvipa appeared at the same time, prepared to join forces to suppress the fiend that escaped from Avici. Cracks appeared in the pitch-black firmaments, and fiend chi surged. However, it was as though the golden light could no longer be stopped and the pure land was about to regain its light. "Fiend, why are you still not submitting?" The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery knocked on his wooden fish and, coupled with the sound domain's secret skill he cultivated, hollered with a domineering might. "Hee hee hee hee." Emperor Bo Sun swept his gaze across the 5 heavenly kings and murmured, "How dare a group of juniors show off in front of me?" It had been more than 1,000,000 years since the battle at Tai Wei Mountain. For Grotto Heaven realm experts, their lifespans were around 1,000,000 years. In other words, the heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries had never seen Emperor Bo Sun before. Furthermore, Emperor Bo Sun wore the Mara mask at all times back then, and not many people had seen his true appearance. Emperor Bo Sun did not reply and merely opened his mouth, absorbing heaven and earth essence chi continuously. He had just walked out of Avici, and his combat strength had yet to recover to its peak. We can't let him continue cultivating and absorb essence chi. The heavenly king of Putual Monastery reacted right away and hollered, "Attack!" Boom, 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 boom. Almost at the same time, a loud bang sounded behind the 5 heavenly kings, and the void collapsed at a visible speed, revealing different scenes. It was as though a gigantic cave had appeared in the collapsed void behind the heavenly king of Putual Monastery. Golden light filled the air, and a lion covered in golden fur roared into the skies. It was like a bloodline phenomenon. However, the energy fluctuation released by the gigantic cave behind the heavenly king of Putual Monastery far surpassed the power of phenomenons. In that cave, there were endless Daos and dermic arts. The dermic Daos transformed into thousands of rays of light, thousands of colors and countless runes that breathed in and out a tremendous amount of heaven and earth essence chi through the cave entrance. Another scene appeared behind the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery. Through the cave formed by the collapse of the void, one could vaguely see a vast ocean with countless white fish swimming in it in an extremely joyful manner. The white fish leaped out of the sea and fell into the sea with a crisp thud. It was the same sound as the wooden fish in the hands of the Great Zen Monastery's heavenly king. The cave entrance spat out a tremendous amount of heaven and earth essence chi and condensed different dermic das. Different phenomenons appeared behind the other three Buddhist heavenly kings as well. This was the power of grotto heavens. The so-called grotto heaven was to open up a chamber in one's body that could reach the heavens and connect to the three realms. It could absorb heaven and earth essence chi wildly from the heavens and nourish one's body. The formation of the grotto heaven came from the Tao fruit. Therefore, every cultivator cultivated different dermic Daos, and the grotto heaven they created was different as well. After condensing a grotto heaven, cultivators could give up on absorbing essence spirit stones, essence spirit liquid, and other cultivation resources. Instead, they could make use of the grotto heaven to absorb heaven and earth essence chi at an even more terrifying speed. The grotto heaven contained the dermic Tao of the cultivator. When grotto heaven realm experts summoned their grotto heavens in battle, their combat strength would increase exponentially. Emperor Bo Sun had just come out of Avici and was still tainted by the rich Avici Fiend chi. The five heavenly kings could not detect his cultivation realm. The five heavenly kings did not dare to be careless and summoned their grotto heavens, prepared to attack with their full strength. Fufufu, Emperor Bo Sun laughed. Initially, his laughter was a little deep. In the end, it turned sharp and resounding. Ha 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 ha. Under his laughter, Emperor Bo Sun stood on Taiwei Mountain with his arms spread wide open. His body was filled with an endless sinister fiend chi, and the skies darkened instantly. The entire sky seemed to be covered by a gigantic black cloth, and the light of day could not be seen. Even the faint light emitted by the grotto heavens supported by the five heavenly kings seemed insignificant against the envelopment of the darkness. Welcome to my world, Paranermit Iva. Emperor Bo Sun grinned and spread his arms with a sinister expression. Standing on the peak, he was like the only god that ruled over this world. What did you say? The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery shuddered with a horrified expression. Paranermita, Vasavartan. The voice of the heavenly king of Putual Monastery was trembling and his face was pale. The other four heavenly kings were pale as sheets as well. That's right. Emperor Bo Sun's voice sounded once more. Paranermita Vasavartan, or as what you guys refer to as the heaven of the great fiend. Pissed. The five heavenly kings were shocked, and their hearts seemed to have stopped beating at that moment. The heaven of the great fiend was a world condensed by Emperor Bo Sun 1,000,000 years ago. The five of them had fallen into the heaven of the great fiend. Emperor Bo Sun was still alive. The five heavenly kings felt a chilling, intense surge into their hearts and felt their limbs go cold. The grotto heavens behind them trembled continuously and swayed, as though they could collapse at any moment. Emperor Bo Sun and the heaven of the great fiend. Those were taboo words in this pure land of the Buddhist monasteries. Chapter 23:13, 2313 Arrival of Emperors. 2313 Arrival of Emperors. Even if someone mentioned those words, it would cause the expressions of others to change, afraid that their hearts of cultivating Buddhism would be disturbed by the fiend intent. But now, the The 5 heavenly kings were facing this terrifying fiend that was like a taboo of the Buddhist monasteries. The battle back then was way too tragic. Be it the 9 firmament immortal domain or the pure land of bliss, they suffered immense losses. More than half of the 20 emperors died on the spot. Furthermore, at that time, many emperor experts knew that even if they joined forces, it would be difficult for them to kill Emperor Bo-sun, who possessed a Buddha and fiend body. That was the reason why the emperors thought of such a method to set up the battlefield here and send Emperor Bo-sun into Avici so that he could never reincarnate. However, who would have thought that even after the 9 firmament immortal domain and pure land of bliss paid such a tragic price, Emperor Bo-sun was not dead and had even walked out of Avici. The world had changed. The return of Emperor Bo-sun would probably change the entire heavenly world. Could the legends be real? A record sounded in the mind of Putual Monastery's heavenly king. Back then, ancient fiend Bo-sun fought against Buddha. Although he was defeated and died, there were rumors in the Buddhist monasteries that the ancient fiend was undying and would definitely reappear in troubled times. All the monks of the Buddhist monasteries thought that the current Emperor Bo-sun was transformed from the ancient fiend of the past. Later on, when Emperor Bo-sun was exiled to Avici, all the monks thought that the ancient fiend was completely destroyed. To think that Emperor Bo-sun would return once more in this generation, even in the entire heavenly world, these 5 heavenly kings of Putua, Great Zen, Maha, Amitabha, and Vesa monasteries were renowned top-tier experts. However, the situation before them was no longer within their control. Bo-sun, the heavenly king of Great Zen monastery, tried his best to compose himself and shouted, "Even if you have reappeared, the emperors of the Buddhist monasteries can still suppress you once more. You've already summoned the heaven of the great fiend. Before long, emperors of the Buddhist monasteries will arrive here." The heavenly king of Putual Monastery clenched his fists as well. You've just left Avici and your combat strength has yet to recover to its peak. There's no way you can fight against the emperors of the Buddhist monasteries head-on. You guys are right. Emperor Bo-sun grinned and sighed. However, it's enough to kill you guys. The moment he said that, Emperor Bo-sun's gaze intensified as he circulated the heaven of the great fiend. Fiend chi surged in the world and a tremendous power gushed forth. There was no way to defend against that power. In this world, Emperor Bo-sun was the only god and no one could go against him. Boom, boom, boom. With a deafening bang, the grotto heavens behind the 5 heavenly kings could not withstand it at all and collapsed instantly after being crushed by the power of the heaven of the great fiend. The 5 heavenly kings spat out blood with despaired expressions. Even if the 5 of them wanted to escape, there was no chance for them to do so in the heaven of the great fiend. Their lives were in the hands of Emperor Bo-sun. Swoosh! Emperor Bo-sun took a deep breath and fiend chi coiled around the body of the heavenly king of Putual Monastery, piercing into his body like vines. The body of the heavenly king of Putual Monastery withered at a visible speed. Under the horrified gazes of the other 4 heavenly kings, the heavenly king of Putual Monastery was sucked into a dried corpse by Emperor Bo-sun in less than 10 breaths and died. Dead. A grotto heaven realm expert that could split the earth and become a king was almost at the peak of the upper world. However, he died in front of the other 4 just like that. The lifespan of a heavenly king was 1,000,000 years. Yet, life and death was merely separated by a single thought. Emperor Bo-sun smacked his lips in enjoyment as he looked at the remaining 4 heavenly kings and murmured, "Who's next?" The 4 heavenly kings shuddered. A fear of death grew, intensifying in an uncontrollable manner. Under normal circumstances, at the level of a heavenly king, one's Tao heart was firm and difficult to shake. However, under the envelopment of the heaven of the great fiend, the wills and Tao hearts of the 4 heavenly kings began to waver. You? Emperor Bo-sun's gaze lingered on the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery for a moment before asking. The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery shuddered and almost broke down on the spot. Or you? Emperor Bo-sun's gaze shifted to the Heavenly King of Amitabha Monastery. In his nervousness, the Heavenly King of Amitabha Monastery exerted strength in his fingers and crushed a prayer bead in his hands. Emperor Bo-sun grinned and took another deep breath. Fiend chi spread and coiled around the Heavenly King of Vesa Monastery. In a dozen breaths, the life force of the Heavenly King of Vesa Monastery dissipated, and he turned into a skeleton. His eyes were lifeless, and he died with grievances. Even though he was a Heavenly King of the Buddhist monasteries, in the eyes of Emperor Bo-sun, his life was like grass that could be cut with indifference. Emperor Bo-sun let out a long breath and smacked his lips. Yes, not bad. Absorbing and refining your life force essences is much faster than me cultivating normally. Emperor, please spare my life. The Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery lost his mind and his Tao heart collapsed. Unable to hold on any longer, he knelt on the ground with a thud and begged for mercy. It wasn't easy for me to cultivate to this point, and I don't wish to die just like this. As long as you're willing to let me off, I'll follow and submit to you, Emperor. Oh. Emperor Bo-sun raised his brows with a satisfied expression and nodded. You sure are sensible and tactful. The Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery was delighted and kowtowed hurriedly. Thank you for letting me live, Emperor. Thank you. How foolish. The Heavenly King of Maha Monastery hollered. He displayed such strength only to make us fear and submit. How can you bow down to him? Our das are different. The Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery grit his teeth. The Tao I seek is only for longevity. So what if I cultivate the Fiend Tao after today? The Emperor has a Buddha and Fiend body and coexists with both das. Which of you is a match for him? You. Before the Heavenly King of Maha Monastery could finish, his body was shrouded by pitch-black Fiend chi. Before long, his life essence was sucked away and he died. Apart from the Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery, the Heavenly King of Amitabha Monastery was the only one left among the 5 Heavenly Kings. Sigh. The Heavenly King of Amitabha Monastery sighed gently and assumed a lotus position, pressing his palms together. Bo-sun, do it. Emperor Bo-sun sneered and opened his mouth without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, the Heavenly King of Amitabha Monastery turned into a skeleton and died as well. Emperor, let's leave the Pure Land of the Buddhist monasteries as soon as possible and head to the Fiend domain. The Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery said hurriedly, there's a high chance that the emperors of the Buddhist monasteries will appear given the commotion caused by the death of 4 Heavenly Kings here. Emperor Bo-sun looked at the Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery with a strange expression and said with a fake smile, I didn't say that I was going to let you live. You. The Heavenly King of Great Zen Monastery's eyes widened. Right then, an incomparably terrifying spirit consciousness descended from the skies of Tai Wei Mountain. Instantly, a Buddhist light shone and pierced the pitch-black heaven of the great fiend like sharp swords. Oh, they're finally here. Emperor Bo-sun raised his head slightly and murmured with a strange look in his eyes. Chapter 23:14. 23:14 Avici Hellfire. 23:14 Avici Hellfire. This is... A figure descended from the firmaments and looked down at the spreading darkness below with a grim expression. His heart skipped a beat as he exclaimed, the heaven of the great fiend. Emperor Bo-sun. This emperor of the Buddhist monasteries recognized the origin of the sinister world that blanketed the skies below right away. Disbelief flashed through the person's eyes. How is this possible? Emperor Bo-sun had already been sent to Avici for many years. How did this heaven of the great fiend reappear? Right then, the heaven of the great fiend beneath suddenly rose against the tides. Endless darkness surged towards the figure in the firmaments, wanting to devour him as well. The emperor of the Buddhist monasteries did not dare to be careless and clasped his palms together, chanting a Dharmic proclamation. Suddenly, a blinding golden light burst forth behind him and a paradise that resembled the Pure Land appeared. One side shone brightly while the other was dark and sinister. Two completely different worlds and two opposing powers collided with a deafening bang. The ground shook and the skies darkened. The seawater surged into the skies and formed massive waves that crashed against the two Taiwei mountains. The void in the world was filled with cracks and a sinister wind gusted from within. In fact, one could even see the stars outside through the cracks. The collision of the two emperors shattered this part of the world. Emperor Bo Sun was extremely notorious and was almost a taboo of the Pure Land of the Buddhist monasteries. The Buddhist emperor did not dare to attack rashly and merely stood his ground like an immovable mountain, defending to buy time. As time passed, the commotion here would definitely alarm the other emperor experts of the Buddhist monasteries. Boom! Another loud bang sounded. The dark world below charged once more, but it did not shake the world of the Buddhist emperor. A moment later, the darkness of the world gradually faded. The Buddhist emperor waited for a long time, but did not see Emperor Bo Sun retaliate. The heaven of the great Fiend had already dissipated and light returned to the world. The Buddhist emperor surveyed his surroundings with a deep gaze, but could not find any traces of Emperor Bo Sun. He merely sensed a remnant aura of a spatial tunnel beneath. Emperor Bo Sun had already left. This doesn't seem to fit the style of Emperor Bo Sun. The Buddhist emperor frowned in silence. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. As though he sensed something, his gaze landed on a figure on Taiwei Mountain not far away. Heavenly King 6 Brahma of Great Zen Monastery. In a flash, the emperor of the Buddhist monasteries arrived at the side of Heavenly King 6 Brahma and checked with his spirit consciousness before heaving a sigh of relief. Heavenly King 6 Brahma was scrawny and had lost a lot of his life essence. Although he looked dispirited, he managed to survive at the very least. On Taiwei Mountain, there were 4 other dried corpses. Although their flesh and life essence had been sucked dry, the emperor of the Buddhist monasteries could still tell that the 4 of them were heavenly kings from Putual Monastery, Amitabha Monastery, Maha Monastery, and Vesa Monastery. All of them were dead. Compared to the other 4, Heavenly King 6 Brahma was considered lucky. Thank you for saving me, Emperor Treasure Light. Heavenly King 6 Brahma panted slightly and said with lingering fear, if you had arrived a step later, I would have died as well. Was the person who attacked Emperor Bo Sun? Emperor Treasure Light asked in a deep voice. That's him. Heavenly King 6 Brahma clenched his fists. Not only did he not die, he even escaped from Avici and went on a massacre. When Emperor Treasure Light arrived, he had already sensed that many people had just died. Azura Monastery on Great Taiwei Mountain was reduced to ruins as well, and almost all the monks within were annihilated. Heavenly King 6 Brahma continued, however, he has just escaped from Avici and his combat strength doesn't seem to have recovered to its peak. The moment he came out, he was absorbing heaven and earth essence chi wildly to nourish his fiend body. That explains everything, Emperor Treasure Light murmured. Earlier on, he was puzzled as to why Emperor Bo Sun would leave silently after exchanging blows with him. It seemed like that was the reason. Emperor Bo Sun had been suppressed by Avici for 1,000,000 years. Even if he managed to escape now, there must be something wrong with his body and his combat strength would be diminished after such a long time. That was the reason why he chose to avoid the battle. Did you notice which direction he went? Emperor Treasure Light asked again. Fiend domain. Heavenly King 6 Brahma replied. Emperor Treasure Light narrowed his eyes slightly. Seems like another bloodbath is about to break out in the Fiend domain. Pausing for a moment, he said, return to the Great Zen Monastery to recuperate. The matter of Emperor Bo Sun escaping from Avici has a lot of implications. Don't spread it for the time being. All right. Heavenly King 6 Brahma agreed. Emperor Treasure Light tore through the air and vanished. Heavenly King 6 Brahma stood up slowly and looked in the direction of Azura Monastery before looking at Avici beneath his feet. Suddenly, he smiled and tore through the void, disappearing from the peak of Taiwei Mountain as well. The world seemed to have returned to normal. In a corner of Azura Monastery that no one was paying attention to, the voice of an old monk sounded faintly. So many people have died again. Oh well, Time to collect more corpses. Greater Avici. The martial Tao Prime body knew that given his cultivation realm, he would not be able to survive in Greater Avici or the Lesser Hells. His only chance and hope was the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. This was the cultivation technique of the Infinite Great Emperor in the past, while Greater Avici was created from the body of the Infinite Great Emperor. There might be a mysterious connection between the two. Therefore, the moment the martial Tao Prime body was devoured by the Avici gate, he began to chant the Prajna Nirvana Sutra continuously. His 5 senses and spirit perception were gone. He could not see anything, not even darkness. He could not differentiate between darkness and light. He could not sense time passing. It was as though he was floating and there was nothing around him. It was empty and he could not sense the existence of space. He was surrounded by an endless loneliness. The martial Tao Prime body chanted the Prajna Nirvana Sutra loudly and even used a sound domain secret skill. However, he could not hear his own voice. The surroundings were silent, and there were no other sounds. The connection between the martial Tao Prime body and Green Lotus True Body had long been lost. Back when he fell into Avici from Taiwei Mountain, he severed his connection with the Green Lotus True Body. Right then, the martial Tao Prime body suddenly felt a scorching sensation spreading from within. The martial Tao Prime body could not help but cry out in pain. It was a flame from Greater Avici that not only burned the flesh of the martial Tao Prime body, but also his essence spirit. This flame was even more terrifying and domineering than karmic flames. Most importantly, the flame contained a true intent of pain that could drive one crazy. Back then, in order to create Greater Avici, the Infinite Great Emperor condensed the painful will of millions of living beings and fused them into his body, forming this world. Anyone who entered Greater Avici would have to endure the pain and torture of millions of living beings. Time was boundless. Space was boundless. The suffering was boundless as well. As long as one entered Avici, their bodies would burn with the Avici Hellfire, and they would endure boundless suffering. Chapter 23:15. 23:15 True Martial Realm. 23:15 True Martial Realm. The martial Tao Prime body had witnessed the scene of 16 lesser hells with his own eyes. Be it the pain of having one's heart dug out or brains removed, none of that could compare to a fraction of the pain caused by the Avici Hellfire. How would it feel to have the extreme pain of millions of living beings gathered together? The martial Tao Prime body could not defend against it either, and was about to cry out. The most terrifying thing was that one would have to endure the endless pain and torture in Greater Avici until their lifespans were exhausted. In Greater Avici, one could not commit suicide even if they could not withstand the pain. What was even more frightening was that the Hellfire could incinerate one's essence spirit directly. The pain on the essence spirit was 1,000 times more intense than on the body. Before long, the martial Tao Prime body could not withstand the pain and even fainted. However, right on the heels of that, he was awakened by an even more intense burning pain, causing him to maintain a state of consciousness as he endured the painful will of Greater Avici once more. After a while, the martial Tao Prime body fainted from the pain again. But soon, he was awakened and endured the pain as the process repeated itself time and again. There was no pause to the endless suffering. Finally, the martial Tao Prime body experienced the true terror of Greater Avici. For any living being that entered Greater Avici, death was a relief for them. In fact, that thought flashed through the mind of the martial Tao Prime body for a moment. But soon, he cast those distracting thoughts aside and defended his Tao heart to the death. If he had not undertaken the trial of the Tao heart stairs and condensed the 10th stone step by strengthening his martial Tao heart, the martial Tao Prime body would definitely not have been able to survive in Greater Avici. His Tao heart would have collapsed before long. While the martial Tao Prime body endured the pain, he tried his best to maintain his clarity and composure. The pain was unbearable and could not be stopped. Those were facts that he could not change and could only accept. He did not know how he could leave this place either. No matter where he went in Greater Avici, the pain would accompany him at all times, and the hellfire would never extinguish. The martial Tao prime body did not give up. A bold thought crossed his mind. Since the martial Tao furnace could smelt all divine powers and nurture 100 sutras, why couldn't he attempt to fuse the hellfire into his body? Back in Tianhuang mainland, after the martial Tao prime body underwent tribulation transcendence repeatedly, he smelted a wisp of tribulation fire through the heavenly tribulation. And now, the martial Tao prime body decided to attempt to smelt the hellfire on his body. The martial Tao prime body had a huge advantage. His essence spirit, the martial spirit, was a ball of flames to begin with. Therefore, his essence spirit and hellfire were of the same origin and had similarities. Of course, his martial spirit fire was way too weak. The first time the martial Tao prime body tried to smelt the hellfire, his martial spirit fire was drowned by it the moment it appeared. His essence spirit endured endless pain once more. The martial Tao prime body continued trying. He could not sense the passage of time or the changes in his environment. He could only try to smelt hellfire continuously, even if it was just a wisp. During this period of time, the martial Tao prime body fainted and failed countless times. He could no longer remember. It had almost become a habit and persistence for him. He smelted hellfire and fainted from the pain. Right on the heels of that, he woke up and smelted again and so on. After a long time, finally, after the martial Tao prime body channeled his essence spirit, a weak wisp of flame was condensed. It was identical to the hellfire on his body and had the same aura. Of course, his cultivation realm was too low and the hellfire he conjured was far inferior to the flames of the Avici hellfire, let alone fight against it. Even so, the martial Tao prime body was even more excited. The additional wisp of hellfire would not help him escape from Greater Avici. However, it would allow him to smelt the sutras and secret skills better. Over the years, the martial Tao prime body had collected many sutras and secret skills. During this period of time, he even went through a taboo mystic classic, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, through the Green Lotus True Body. However, the martial spirit fire, tribulation fire, Red Lotus Karmic Fire and Dragon Phoenix Flames alone could not smelt taboo mystic classics or some obscure ancient texts. Therefore, it was difficult for the martial Tao prime body to comprehend the essence and profoundness of those ancient texts and mystic classics. But now, with the addition of a wisp of hellfire, the martial Tao furnace became even stronger and its smelting power increased exponentially. In fact, it even smelted all the ancient texts that were previously difficult to understand and the sutras of the taboo mystic classic. During this period of time, the martial Tao prime body discovered something else while smelting hellfirite was a blessing in disguise. Initially, his body was already tainted by the Fiend chi of Emperor Bo Sun. Be it his bones, flesh, or organs, they all contained the aura of fiends. Given his strength, he could not purge the Fiend chi at all. However, after being burned by the hellfire in Greater Avici repeatedly, the Fiend chi left in his body by Emperor Bo Sun was burned away cleanly. Of course, there was no heaven and earth essence chi in Avici, and his injuries showed no signs of healing. The 9 fate rings were shattered by Emperor Bo Sun and floated within his body. The martial Tao prime body comprehended and deduced the dermic formulation of the martial Tao as he smelted the ancient sutras. Although he had fallen into Greater Avici and could not leave, enduring the pain endlessly, he held onto the heart of the martial Tao and did not give up on deducing the dermic formulation of the martial Tao was still advancing on this arduous path. In truth, all dermic formulations would inevitably converge into one. For example, although the Immortal, Buddhist, and Fiend Taoists cultivated different dermic formulations, their cultivation realms were similar. After passing through the black, earth, and heaven essence realms, the 3 essences would converge. Thereafter, one would condense a Tao fruit and advance to the perfected one realm before going on to the grotto heaven realm to be conferred as kings. In other words, it was not impossible even if the martial Tao prime body wanted to condense his fate rings into a Tao fruit now. However, he did not want to give up just like that. While it may be inevitable for all Daos to converge as one in the end, he wanted to try his best to perfect the martial Dao as much as possible before that. After a long time, perhaps a few months or hundreds of years, a thought gradually appeared in the mind of the martial Dao prime body. As time passed by and countless sutras were smelted by the martial Dao furnace, the thought developed further. A realization flashed through the mind of the martial Dao prime body. The greatest difference between the martial Dao and the Immortal, Fiend, and Buddhist Daos was already obvious when the martial Dao was established. The Immortal, Fiend, and Buddhist Daos absorbed the spirit chi and essence chi of the world to cultivate and comprehend, making use of the heaven and earth powers to fight. The martial Dao was initially established for cultivators without spirit roots. Every single step of the martial Dao was to cultivate oneself. After the heaven essence realm, Immortals, Buddhas, and Fiends would condense a Dao fruit in their consciousness using the dharmic Dao they had cultivated for their entire lives. On the other hand, the martial Dao prime body attempted to imprint the dharmic Dao of the 9 fate rings on his bones to continue strengthening himself and eventually condense the true martial Dao body. The Immortal, Buddhist, and Fiend Daos condensed Dao fruits, while the martial Dao condensed a Dao body. The next realm of the martial Dao was the true martial realm. Chapter 2316. 2316 Opportunity to Leave. 2316 Opportunity to Leave. When the martial Dao prime body thought about that, he felt that the path ahead of the martial Dao no longer seemed lost. Beams of bright light shone from behind the layers of fog and illuminated his heart. There was no need for him to activate it. The fragments of the 9 fate rings automatically turned into mysterious runes that condensed the will of the martial Dao. The dharmic arts of the martial Dao circulated within his body and wrapped around every single bone. The bones of the martial Dao body were immersed in the mysterious purple runes. After a long time, mysterious patterns gradually appeared on the bones, as though they were imprinted on them. Initially, it was only a shallow layer. However, as time passed by, the runes on every single bone became clearer, as though they were etched deeply into them and fused with the bones, impossible to erase. Throughout the long process, the pain of greater Avici continued to torment the martial Dao prime body. He would still faint from the pain. However, each time he woke up, the martial Dao prime body would perk up and endure the endless pain to continue imprinting runes on his bones to forge his Dao body. This was his Dao. No matter how much suffering he had to endure, he had to continue. If the pain in greater Avici was inflicted on someone else, they would be dispirited and their Dao heart would collapse no matter their cultivation. As for the martial Dao prime body, he perfected the martial Dao and created a dharmic formulation for the next cultivation realm in greater Avici when he was at his wit's end. The martial Dao prime body could not sense the passage of time, and there was no one or sound around him. He merely forged and refined his Dao body continuously. Finally, at a certain moment, all the runes in the 9 fate rings and the dharmic Dao will of the martial Dao were imprinted on the bones of the martial Dao prime body. At that moment, the martial Dao prime body felt as though he had broken through a bottleneck and a barrier had broken through to the next level. He had just formed his true martial Dao body. The martial Dao prime body had already entered the true martial realm. Under normal circumstances, be it Immortal, Fiend, or Buddhist cultivators, they would trigger a heavenly tribulation the moment they entered the perfected one realm. The 5 of 9 heavenly tribulation was the lowest and the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation was the highest. Although the martial Dao took another path and was completely different from the Immortal, Buddhist, and Fiend Daos, this action of the martial Dao prime body broke through some sort of restriction as well. Under normal circumstances, it would also attract a heavenly tribulation. However, the martial Dao prime body waited for a long time but could not sense any aura of a heavenly tribulation. There was only a single possibility greater Avici could also isolate the senses of the heavenly tribulation. The martial Dao prime body focused his gaze and saw that every single rune on his bones shone with a purple glow and every single bone burned with dense purple flames. The purple flames tempered his body continuously, baptizing his bloodline and incinerating it completely. Once his bloodline, body, and organs were completely baptized by the purple flames, it meant that he had attained greater mastery of the true martial Dao body. At that time, every single inch of his flesh, blood, and even a single hair on his body would contain the terrifying will of the martial Dao. He could shake the world with a single move. At that thought, the martial Dao prime body was initially excited. However, he calmed down on second thought. Even if he was invincible in the perfected one realm, so what? He was trapped in Greater Avici and could not get out at all. Even a terrifying expert like Emperor Bo Sun, who could escape from the lesser hells of Avici, did not dare to step foot into this place. Even if he had deduced the next dermic formulation and cultivation realm of the martial Dao, so what? He could only endure the pain here endlessly until his lifespan was up. Suddenly, the martial Dao prime body smiled. Even so, he would not give up. Since he was trapped here, he would use the remaining time to continue deducing the martial Dao. That was because he knew that if possible, he might still have a chance to leave this place. The martial Dao prime body did not know when that moment would arrive and could only wait patiently. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, 1,000 years had passed since the 10,000-year meet. Zixian Immortal Kingdom, Palace Library. A woman with light makeup and plain robes on the roof leaned against a bamboo chair. Her black hair was tied up with a ribbon and draped casually behind her back. The plain-robed woman held an ancient book in her hands and read it intently. Right then, footsteps sounded from downstairs. Immediately after, a maid-servant-like woman walked up to the plain-robed woman and brewed a pot of tea for her before saying softly, "Princess, please rest." After a while, the plain-robed woman seemed to have snapped out of her stupor. She acknowledged and stood up slowly, sipping her tea. Without taking her eyes off the ancient book in her hands, she asked casually, "Did anything major happen outside during this period of time? I heard that something big happened at the Pure Land of Bliss." The maidservant stuck out her tongue and said in a serious manner, "Oh." The plain-robed woman still did not raise her head. This maidservant of hers loved to make a mountain out of a molehill and exaggerate about everything. The maidservant continued, "I heard that Emperor Bo soon escaped from the infinite hell and reappeared, descending upon the heavenly world." Upon hearing the words Emperor Bo Sun, the plain-robed woman's expression changed slightly. Frowning slightly, she raised her head and said in a deep voice, "What happened? Tell me in detail." The maidservant said, "Around 1,000 years ago, a group of people from the Fiend domain broke through Great Taiwei Mountain and entered Avici. Not long after, only a moon-devouring heavenly wolf escaped from Avici. Everyone else died within." The plain-robed woman frowned. "How is that possible? How can anyone possibly escape from Avici? What's the cultivation of that heavenly wolf?" "I heard that he's only at the heaven immortal realm," the maidservant said. The plain-robed woman frowned in deep thought. The news came from the Pure Land of Bliss and was transmitted through multiple channels. Although there might be some deviations in the details, it should not be wrong. "Continue," the plain-robed woman said. The maidservant said, "Later on, Emperor Bo Sun, who escaped from Avici. At that time, 5 heavenly kings of Jambudvipa were alarmed. In the end, 4 of them were killed by Emperor Bo Sun, and 1 of them was severely injured. Azura Monastery on Great Taiwei Mountain was reduced to ruins, and all the monks inside are dead." Pausing for a moment, the maidservant continued mysteriously, "I heard from others that the group of people who first entered Avici were the former subordinates of Emperor Bo Sun. The reason why they barged into Avici this time round was so that they could release Emperor Bo Sun's seal, allowing that fiend to escape." The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. Most of those speculations were wild guesses by busybodies and could not be accurate. However, this news was indeed shocking. "What happened later on?" the plain-robed woman asked again. The maidservant said, "Later on, this matter alarmed the emperor experts of the Pure Land of the Buddhist monasteries. I heard that they even fought against Emperor Bo Sun. Unable to defeat him, Emperor Bo-sun fled to the Fiend domain and has never appeared since. I also heard that Emperor Bo-sun charged out of Avici and caused cracks to appear in it such that it can no longer trap anyone. Recently, many cultivators are prepared to head to Avici to explore and obtain opportunities. Chapter 2317 2317 Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend Painting 2317 Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend Painting. The plain-robed woman frowned and fell into deep thought. Ever since Avici existed, it had experienced the longevity era and countless years had passed. For such a long time, countless experts were buried inside, but no living being could come out alive. In other words, Avici was indeed an unimaginable treasure trove. There were countless treasures left behind by those experts alone. The maidservant said, "Now that one can enter and exit Avici freely, I wonder how many experts will swarm in and who will be able to obtain the opportunities within." "It's not that simple." The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. Avici was established by the infinite great emperor. Even if it was damaged by Emperor Bo-sun, it's definitely not a friendly place. Not many people can defend against the living beings of hell that are born within. The maidservant asked blankly, "What living beings of hell?" The plain-robed woman did not explain. She closed the ancient book in her hands and placed it on the bamboo chair beside her. The words "Infinite Era" were written on the front of the ancient book. This book was not a cultivation technique or secret skill. Instead, it was a biography that recorded many major events of the upper world during the Infinite Era and some legends of experts. Among them, the most famous was naturally the infinite great emperor who founded an era. Therefore, the plain-robed woman's understanding of the infinite great emperor far surpassed others. Rising, the plain-robed woman paced back and forth, murmuring in deep thought, "There's something strange about this." "What do you mean? What's strange about it?" The maidservant asked again. The plain-robed woman frowned. "This happened 1,000 years ago. Why is there only news of it now?" The birth of Emperor Bo-sun is not a small matter. The implications are too great. The news must have been suppressed by the pure land of the Buddhist monasteries. The maidservant replied, "Since it was suppressed, why would such news suddenly spread?" The plain-robed woman asked instead. The maidservant shrugged her shoulders and shook her head. The plain-robed woman continued, "Furthermore, that's Avici after all. It's a forbidden ground that even great emperors are wary of. It has existed for so many years without any problems. How can it be damaged by the power of Emperor Bo-sun?" The maidservant said, "Perhaps it's because it's been too long and can't withstand the corrosion of time." The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. Just as she was about to speak, her heart skipped a beat as she thought of something. If the hell suppression tripod is in that person's hands, that means that there's no hell suppression tripod in Avici. The plain-robed woman muttered to herself, "In that case, it makes sense for cracks to appear in Avici after Emperor Bo-sun charged out." "Princess, what are you talking about?" The maidservant asked curiously. "What hell suppression tripod? What person?" "It's nothing." The plain-robed woman changed the topic and asked, "Is Yunting still in seclusion?" "Yes." The maidservant nodded. The plain-robed woman said deeply, "I'm prepared to make a trip to the pure land of bliss. If he comes out of seclusion, don't tell him about this." "Ah." The maidservant snapped out of her stupor and exclaimed, "Princess, are you going to Avici? Didn't you just say that it was very dangerous there?" "It's indeed dangerous, but I still have to make a trip." The plain-robed woman said, "I'm curious and puzzled about the life of the infinite great emperor. Perhaps I can only find the answer in Avici." The maidservant said with a worried expression, "Princess, please bring more people this time round." "There's no need. I'll head there alone." The plain-robed woman said, "If I truly encounter danger in a place like Avici, it wouldn't matter how many people are by my side. Instead, they'll only lose their lives for nothing. However, once the news spreads, experts will definitely gather there. At that time, who knows what sort of conflicts will break out as they fight for the treasures. It's way too dangerous." The maidservant continued, "No matter what, Avici is one of the most dangerous forbidden grounds in history. At the Emperor realm, one has a long lifespan and it's difficult for them to be tempted by most treasures. The plain-robed woman was extremely calm as she analyzed, therefore, they won't take the risk personally. As for Immortal King experts, they might not be in a hurry to enter either. Most likely, they won't act rashly and will just wait and see. I think that the cultivators who entered Avici this time round should be Heaven Immortals and perfected Immortal experts. At my level, I'm not afraid of anything. Even if I can't beat them, I can escape unscathed. Although the plain-robed woman decided to head to Avici, she did not do it on impulse. Instead, she analyzed the dangers and possible situations before making a move. Furthermore, she knew a lot about the infinite great emperor. That was the reason why she was confident. When the plain-robed woman saw that the maidservant at the side was still worried, she could not help but smile. Don't worry, I'm only going this time round to find some answers about the infinite great emperor. I'm not going to fight with them for treasures. Even if they kill one another out of blind greed for the treasures, it has nothing to do with me. Heaven and Earth Academy, Legacy Ground. A man and woman stood in front of a cave abode. From afar, they looked like a golden couple. The man's figure was tall and straight, like an unsheathed sword with a sharp edge. His gaze was sharp with a faint cold glint, and he had an extraordinary aura. The woman had a fairy-like appearance, and merely stood quietly with her clothes fluttering in the wind. She was extremely compatible with the surrounding flora, mountains in the distance, clouds in the skies, and the butterflies dancing on her shoulders, forming an indescribably beautiful painting. The man was a legacy disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, Sword Immortal Yuhua. The woman was none other than the painting immortal, Mo Qing. Junior sister, why are you so stubborn and insist on going to Avici? Sword Immortal Yuhua frowned. Avici is way too dangerous. Even if there are cracks, you'll most likely die if you enter. Given your status and nobleness, there's no need for you to take such a huge risk. Fairy Mo Qing remained silent with an indifferent expression. Sword Immortal Yuhua continued, Junior sister, I'll try my best to help you get anything you want as long as you're willing to say it. Thank you. Senior brother Yuhua, what is it? Just tell me. Sword Immortal Yuhua said proudly. Fairy Mo Qing said, Senior Yu Daozi's Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting. Sword Immortal Yuhua's expression froze. Fairy Mo Qing continued, Yu Daozi was once a senior of the Academy. The Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting contains 4 peak masterpieces of his. It also contains his drawing techniques and Tao of drawing. Actually, a large part of the reason why I joined the Academy back then was because I liked Senior Yu Daozi's paintings. However, he has already died for many years, and the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting has long been lost. Sword Immortal Yuhua said helplessly, There are countless paintings in the world. I can find other good works for you. There's no need for that. Fairy Mo Qing shook her head gently. Back then, in order to complete the 4th ghost diagram, Senior Yu Daozi headed to Avici. He never came out again and died within. As such, the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting should be buried inside as well. Chapter 2318 2318 Blood Butterfly Legend 2318 Blood Butterfly Legend. When Sword Immortal Yuhua saw Fairy Mo Qing's determination, his expression darkened and a grim look flashed through his eyes. He believed that Fairy Mo Qing should definitely know his intentions. However, for so many years, this junior sister had always been indifferent to him and merely maintained the politeness as a fellow sect mate. There was no chance for their relationship to advance at all. When Sword Immortal Yuhua thought of Mo Qing's personality, he was in no hurry and did not force her. However, over the years, the rumors about Fairy Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu had long spread everywhere, causing Sword Immortal Yuhua to be vexed. His patience gradually disappeared as well. He did not want to wait any longer. Sword Immortal Yuhua turned around and stood in front of Fairy Mo Qing. He looked at her affectionately and said gently, Junior sister, over the years, there have been many bad rumors about you in the outside world. I'm extremely angry and my heart aches for you. There's a way to resolve this matter. As long as we implore our master to step in and facilitate our marriage as Tao companions, we'll announce it to the world and send invitations. Naturally, we'll be able to clear your name and those rumors will be dispelled. Fairy Imo Ching smiled gently. Thank you for your kind intentions, Senior Brother Yu Hua. However, there's no need for that. I rarely go out and I specialize in my painting Tao in the mountains and rivers. No matter how many rumors there are in the outside world, I don't care. I'm innocent. Fairy Imo Ching had made her intentions extremely clear. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was proud. It was already rare for him to take the initiative to express his intentions. Now that he was rejected, it was naturally not good for him to continue pestering. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was silent for a moment before suddenly asking coldly, Junior sister, are you really heading to Avici for the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting? Of course. Fairy Imo Ching was slightly surprised and asked, what else do you think, Senior Brother Yu Hua? Fu. Sword Immortal Yu Hua turned to look at the forest in the distance and smiled mockingly, saying casually, nothing much. Since you've already made up your mind and I can't persuade you further, I can only wish you a safe return. Sword Immortal Yu Hua cupped his fists and said another sentence before flicking his sleeves to leave expressionlessly. Fairy Imo Ching looked at Sword Immortal Yu Hua's back view and sighed internally. Although she was naive, she could sense Sword Immortal Yu Hua's intentions. However, she had always only regarded Sword Immortal Yu Hua as a senior brother of the same sect. Now that she rejected Senior Brother Yu Hua, he must be extremely sad and disappointed. At that thought, Fairy Imo Ching felt conflicted as well. Little butterfly, did I do something wrong? Fairy Imo Ching lowered her head slightly and murmured, perhaps Senior Brother Yu Hua is the person I'm destined to be with. Perhaps I should become his Tao companion. Actually, Senior Brother Yu Hua is not a bad person either. He's bad. He's a hypocrite. Little Butterfly's voice was crisp with a hint of disdain. Even though he knew that you were heading to Avici, he did not dare to travel with you. If someone truly cares about you, why would they let you head to a dangerous place alone? Fairy Imo Ching shook her head gently. It's not his fault. We're only from the same sect after all. How can I let others take the risk for me? In any case, this person isn't good, Little Butterfly said crisply. After a moment of silence, Fairy Imo Ching gazed into the distance with a lost expression and asked softly, what is love? Why can't I sense it? You're obsessed with paintings every day and rarely interact with others. Naturally, you can't feel the love and affection of the mortal world. Seemingly experienced, Little Butterfly said, if you travel more and meet more cultivators, you'll definitely be able to meet someone you like. Someone I like? Fairy Imo Ching tilted her head slightly in confusion. She had only liked mountains, rivers, plants, and paintings. However, she had never liked anyone and did not know what it felt like. It means someone who can move your heart. Little Butterfly explained, if you can meet someone that makes your heart skip a beat and you miss him day and night, that's because you like him. Fairy Imo Ching recalled carefully. Up till this point of her cultivation, she had truly not met anyone who could move her heart. However, there were many paintings that moved her. Little Butterfly, do you have anyone you like? How do you know so much? Fairy Imo Ching asked with a smile. I don't. Little Butterfly replied. I only heard about these from others as well. Fairy Imo Ching smiled and chatted with Little Butterfly for a while, feeling much better. Normally, she lived and cultivated alone without any immortal servants. She was also used to being alone and liked the feeling of silence. Over the years, with Little Butterfly's company, although it was a little noisier, she smiled much more as well. By the way, Little Butterfly, there's something you haven't explained to me. Fairy Imo Ching asked reproachfully, why do you keep coming to the inner sect for no reason? After she saved this ice butterfly, she was cold to everyone and kept strangers at bay. However, there was one inner sect disciple she did not resist. It was said that the inner sect disciple had already been accepted as an in-name disciple by her master. Once he entered the perfected one realm, he could join her master as her junior brother. There's an aura about that person that feels very familiar. Little Butterfly said hesitantly. You've grown a liking for him, huh? Fairy Imoching asked jokingly. No. Little Butterfly explained hurriedly. That person has an aura that's extremely similar to a demon empress of our race. It's very strange. Demon empress? Fairy Imoching was surprised. Those were high and mighty existences that stood at the peak of the upper sect. How could they be related to a single inner sect disciple? Furthermore, these were emperor experts of the demon race that were far away in the great wilderness. That demon empress is the pride of our race and is the expert I respect, admire, and idolize the most. I'm even willing to die for her. At the mention of this demon empress, Little Butterfly's eyes shone with a fanatical glint, and she was incomparably proud. Every single emperor expert will be respected by their clansmen. Fairy Imoching nodded. No. Little Butterfly shook her head. She's different from the other emperors. She's the pride and hope of our race, in fact, the entire demon race. For some reason, Little Butterfly seemed extremely emotional at the mention of this demon empress. Our butterfly race is incomparably weak from the moment of our birth, Little Butterfly said, although some butterflies with powerful bloodlines such as the butterfly sovereign lineage appeared during this period of time, they still can't fight against other living beings. Fairy Imoching was no stranger to these things. The butterfly race was indeed the weakest race and was far inferior to the human race. Little Butterfly continued, however, this demon empress single-handedly changed the status of our butterfly race among the 10,000 races, allowing us to occupy a place in the great wilderness and even the upper world. As long as this demon empress of our race is around, the butterfly race will never be a weak race. Fairy Imoching opened her mouth slightly with a shocked expression. Indeed, the other emperors could not be compared to someone who could single-handedly change the status of a race within the 10,000 races. Chapter 2319, 2319 Perfect Strategy. 2319 Perfect Strategy. After Sword Immortal Yu Hua left Imoching's cave abode, he returned home. Along the way, his expression was cold and the sharpness he exuded almost tore through the void. When a few legacy disciples saw Sword Immortal Yu Hua, they did not dare to advance and merely cupped their fists before retreating far away, afraid that they would offend him. Before long, Sword Immortal Yu Hua arrived at his cave abode where another legacy disciple, Shaoli, had been waiting for a long time. Senior brother, what happened? Shaoli went forward and asked when he saw something amiss with Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression. Sword Immortal Yu Hua remained silent and walked straight towards the cave abode with a dark expression. The door opened on its own, and Shaoli followed hurriedly. Before returning to the cave abode and taking a seat, an immortal servant had long prepared tea. He poured it carefully and placed it in front of the two legacy disciples before retreating with his head lowered. Sword Immortal Yu Hua picked up the fragrant tea in front of him and drank it in one gulp. After a long silence, he said, Junior Sister Imoching is going to Avici. Shaoli said, I've also heard about the news of Avici. This time round, many desperados were alarmed. Cultivators from the Pure Land of Bliss, 9 Firmament, Immortal Domain, and Fiend Domain are all going to make a move. However, Avici is not a friendly place and is notorious. As one of the 4 great fairies, there's no need for Senior Sister Imoching to take the risk, right? I also advised her not to take the risk, but she insisted on going. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was a little angry. Although she's usually quiet and meek, her personality is not weak at all. I'm her senior brother, but she doesn't take heed to my advice at all. What's in Avici? Why does Senior Sister Imoching insist on heading there? Shaoli asked again. She said that she's looking for Yu Daozi's Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting. Sword Immortal Yu Hua sneered and replied. That's possible. Senior Sister Imoching is obsessed with the Tao of painting. For the sake of the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting, she might take the risk to explore Avici. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression darkened as he said coldly, Do you really think that she's heading to Avici for the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting? Isn't it? Shaoli was stunned for a moment with a lost expression. Sword Immortal Yuhua said coldly, Yang Ruoxu has just been crippled and his essence spirit is severely injured. Junior sister Imoching must be going to Avici to look for the Soraka fruit to heal him. A look of realization flashed through Xiao Li's eyes. Sword Immortal Yuhua clenched his fists and said coldly, she thinks that I can't guess the reason and is even trying to hide it. Senior brother, what should we do then? Xiao Li asked. Should we get Qingyun and the others to do something and kill Yang Ruoxu secretly? There's no need. Sword Immortal Yuhua sneered. The Ashoka tree has been destroyed for so many years. Finding the Soraka fruit in Avici is even more difficult than searching for a needle in a haystack. I'll wait here in the academy for her to return. I want to see her in despair. Suddenly, Sword Immortal Yuhua laughed and said coldly, Junior sister Imoching returning empty-handed and Yang Ruoxu severely injured. The both of them will be forced to part ways through life and death. There's no way I can miss such a good show. Looking at Sword Immortal Yuhua's smile, Xiao Li suddenly felt a chill. Senior brother Yuhua's hatred for senior sister Imoching had already exceeded his imagination. He could not understand why senior brother Yuhua would hate senior sister Imoching so much in the blink of an eye and harbor such vicious thoughts when he was so enamored with her previously. In the inner sect of the academy, in a cave abode, Fang Qingyun, Tang Peng, and Yin Bingying were gathered here. Senior brother Fang, I heard that Yang Ruoxu was traveling outside and was a busybody, fighting for injustice. In the end, he was severely injured and almost died outside. Tang Peng was a little excited. I heard that he's lying in his cave abode like a dead dog. He's already crippled. Now, we don't have to make a move. That's right. Even if senior brother Fang had attacked, they could only spar on the sword discourse arena where life and death battles were not allowed. At most, Yang Ruoxu would be defeated and taught a lesson. Yin Bingying said, however, there aren't so many rules outside. It's said that his essence spirit was severely injured, and it's already lucky that he managed to survive. Fang Qingyun did not say anything the entire time and merely smiled indifferently. As he listened to their discussion, a smug look flashed through his eyes. It was only then that he laughed and suddenly said, do you guys really think that he survived merely through luck? Huh. Tang Peng was stunned. Before he could react, Fang Qingyun continued, do you guys really think that Yang Ruoxu's accident was just an accident? Tang Peng's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Fang Qingyun with widened eyes and whispered, could it be that you were the one who attacked this time round, senior brother? I didn't do it personally. I merely planned it. Fang Qingyun said, the people who attacked this time round were also top-tier experts of the major factions, Pang Yi of the Pang clan, Prince Yuan Zhua and his execution guards, Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan of Flying Immortal Sect and Prince Yet Tianhong of the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom. I merely informed them of Yang Ruoxu's location and watched from the sidelines as they attacked. Pausing for a moment, Fang Qingyun laughed again. I have to say that battle was very exciting. Yin Bingying frowned slightly without saying anything. Although she was extremely negative towards Yang Ruoxu because of Sword Immortal Yuhua and the others, she was still resistant to inviting outsiders to deal with her fellow sect mates. On the other hand, Tang Peng was excited. So, you were the one plotting everything behind the scenes, senior brother. It's no wonder that there was such a huge commotion. Since senior brother Yuhua requested it, I naturally had to do my best. Fang Qingyun smiled calmly. Tang Peng was puzzled and asked, senior brother Fang, how did Yang Ruoxu manage to return alive with so many experts attacking? It was my intention. Fang Qingyun smiled and beat around the bush without continuing. Why? Tang Peng thought for a long time, but could not figure it out and asked with a frown. Yin Bingying said, perhaps senior brother Fang spared his life on account of our relationship as fellow sect mates. Fang Qingyun shook his head gently. I allowed him to return because I wanted to deal with another person. Su Zimo. Tang Peng snapped out of his stupor and blurted. That's right. Fang Qingyun nodded. Do you have a plan ready? Tang Peng asked. Although he realized that Fang Qingyun wanted to deal with Su Zimo, he could not think of a way to make use of this opportunity. Fang Qingyun said, Su Zimo was accepted as an in-name disciple by the sect master, and his status is much higher than Yang Ruoxu. If a large force was mobilized in Divine Firmament mainland to ambush him, I'm afraid the sect master will sense it. Therefore, in order to deal with Su Zimo, it's best if the location is as far away from Divine Firmament Immortal domain as possible. Yang Ruoxu's essence spirit is severely injured, and it won't be long before Su Zimo receives the news. There are extremely few immortal herbs that can heal essence spirit injuries, and the Sriracha fruit is one of them. When he heard that, Tang Peng's eyes lit up. He continued Feng Qingyun's words. Recently, there's news from the Pure Land of Bliss that a crack has appeared in Avici, and there are countless treasures inside. The Sriracha fruit might be there. Therefore, your goal is to make use of Yang Ruoxu's essence spirit injuries to lure Su Zimo to Avici in order to get rid of him there. Feng Qingyun smiled without saying anything as a silent acknowledgement. Tang Peng could not help but clap and praise. This is an interconnected trap, killing two birds with one stone. While dealing with Yang Ruoxu, a trap is set for Su Zimo to prevent future troubles. Senior brother, your plan is truly perfect and well thought out. I think your wisdom is practically comparable to the sect master. Chapter 2320, 2320 Out of Seclusion, 2320 Out of Seclusion. Tang Peng's words made Feng Qingyun delighted. The sect master of the academy was incomparably intelligent and could see through heaven and earth, knowing everything. Almost every disciple of the academy admired the sect master. At the very least, the fact that Tang Peng compared him to the sect master meant that he was definitely qualified to be a personal disciple of the sect master. Of course, on the surface, Feng Qingyun pretended to be calm and said humbly, I'm far inferior to the magnificence of the sect master. Yin Bingying had a strange expression and hesitated. What do you want to say, junior sister? Given Feng Qingyun's sharpness, he noticed Yin Bingying's abnormality from the corner of his eye and asked with a smile. Yin Bingying hesitated for a moment before saying, I feel that it's not appropriate for outsiders to kill our fellow sect mates. Ever since she witnessed Su Zimo pass the Dao Heart Stairs trial and condense the 10th stone step 1,000 years ago, her impression of him had changed significantly. Yin Bingying continued, furthermore, we don't have any deep feud with senior brother Su. Senior brother Yu Hua merely asked us to deal with Yang Ruoxu. There's no need. Fu. Suddenly, Feng Qingyun chuckled. Senior brother Su? Huh? Are you very close to him, junior sister? No. Yin Bingying's expression changed slightly as she shook her head hurriedly. We haven't confirmed who did senior brother Peng's death yet. The greatest possibility is still Yang Ruoxu, Yin Bingying said. Tang Peng harumphed coldly. It has something to do with Su Zimo as well. Stop arguing. Feng Qingyun was a little impatient and hollered softly. Su Zimo has offended too many people. It has nothing to do with us if he dies outside. Senior brother, I didn't make it last time. I can't miss it this time round. Tang Peng grit his teeth. I'm going to Avici too. I want to see Su Zimo's demise with my own eyes. That's the only way I'll feel good. Su Zimo was the one who embarrassed me in the previous Dao Heart Stairs trial. Pausing for a moment, he seemed worried again. Senior brother, Avici is way too dangerous. Isn't it too risky to set up an ambush inside? Feng Qingyun smiled. Why are you so dumb? Our goal is merely to lure Su Zimo away from Divine Firmament mainland. Why would we have to wait till he's in Avici to attack? I got it. Tang Peng was delighted. Senior brothers, if there's nothing else, I'll make a move first. Feeling a little frustrated, Yin Bingying cupped her fists and bid farewell to Feng Qingyun. Feng Qingyun nodded and did not ask her to stay. After Yin Bingying left, Tang Peng's expression darkened as he asked softly, Senior brother, will senior sister Yin report this matter to the seniors of the sect? Feng Qingyun said indifferently, evidence is everything. If she doesn't have any evidence, what can she report? That's good. Tang Peng nodded. Senior sister Yin seems to have changed a lot over the years. She's not so close to us anymore. Fu. Feng Qingyun smiled mockingly. Everything depends on what she chooses. If she chooses to stand on Su Zimo's side, it only means that she's a stupid woman. Senior brother, will anything go wrong this time round? Tang Peng was worried again. There's something sinister about that Su Zimo. Previously, he was filled with confidence regarding the Dao Heart Stairs, but in the end, he suffered a huge loss. A legacy disciple was crippled just like that, and even the 9 great elders and sect master of the academy were alarmed. Now that he thought about it, he felt a sense of trepidation. This time round, the Pang clan, Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, Yin Yang Immortal Kingdom, and Flying Immortal Sect joined forces. Fang Qingyun said in a deep voice, Pang Yi, Prince Yuan Zhua, Xiet Tianhong, and Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan alone are 4 grade 9 Heaven Immortals. Any one of them can kill Su Zimo as easily as stepping on an ant. Furthermore, these people will bring many trusted aides with them. What can go wrong? Pausing for a moment, Fang Qingyun continued, Don't worry, these people have a deep feud with Su Zimo and want him dead even more than us. I won't be surprised even if they invite a perfected immortal to hold down the situation. Senior brother, are you not going this time round? Tang Peng asked. A group of grade 9 Heaven Immortals grouping up against a grade 1 Heaven Immortal. What's there to see? I'm not interested. Fang Qingyun shrugged and pouted. Heh, I'll join the crowd when the time comes. Tang Peng grinned with anticipation in his eyes. In a cave abode, Su Zimo let out a long breath and opened his eyes. After entering the Heaven Essence realm, his cultivation speed slowed down significantly. For example, Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Lu Ping joined the inner sect at the same time as him. In fact, there were even some disciples who joined the inner sect hundreds or thousands of years earlier, but could not cultivate to level 2 of the Heaven Essence realm. As for Su Zimo, he had already cultivated to the peak of grade 2 Heaven Immortal with his Green Lotus True Body, Divine Dragon Pill, Essence Spirit Liquid, and other supreme grade cultivation resources. Although the grade 11 Green Lotus True Body absorbed Heaven and Earth Essence Qi quickly, the consumption of cultivation resources was unimaginable. If not for the fact that he had a large amount of cultivation resources, it would not even be enough for the Green Lotus True Body to cultivate for 1,000 years. Cultivating in the Heaven Essence realm had clearly become much more difficult. If he merely stayed in seclusion all year round, it would be difficult for him to break through multiple realms in succession like before. Now that Su Zimo had cultivated to the peak of a grade 2 Heaven Immortal, he had encountered a bottleneck and lingered for many years without breaking through. It was not his fault. Even for a Heaven grade sect like Heaven and Earth Academy, most inner sect disciples would never be able to advance to the perfected immortal realm for the rest of their lives. Cultivators who could become perfected immortals were all filled with talent, opportunities, fortune, perseverance, and various other karma. None of those factors could be done without, and no one had a smooth journey. In the past few days, Lu Ping and Princess Scarlet Rainbow came to his cave abode many times. Something seemed to have happened. Today, Lu Ping was loitering outside once again. When Su Zimo saw that he could not break through the bottleneck for the time being, he did not continue cultivating and was prepared to head out to take a look. Junior brother Lu, is there anything? Su Zimo pushed the door open and asked softly. Because Lu Ping inherited the body of the willow tree, even after 1,000 years, he still looked like a child with a few jade-green pigtails on his head. Lu Ping hesitated for a moment before saying, Senior brother Su, something happened to senior brother Yang. Yang Ruoxu? Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. In Heaven and Earth Academy, the only cultivator with the surname Yang that he knew was Yang Ruoxu. Yes, Lu Ping said, I heard that senior brother Yang was traveling outside and was indignant about something. In the end, he got into a conflict and was surrounded. Given senior brother Yang's capabilities, who can hurt him? Su Zimo frowned and asked as he walked towards Yang Ruoxu's cave abode. I heard that there were experts from Flying Immortal Sect and the Yin Yang Immortal Kingdom. Lu Ping said, however, they're all grade 9 Heaven Immortals. Although they joined forces to attack, it was not considered bullying as their cultivation realms are similar. It's not easy for the Academy to step in for this matter either. How are his injuries? Su Zimo asked again. He's severely injured. His essence spirit is severely injured, and even the sect master can't treat it. He's most likely going to be crippled in the future, sigh. Lu Ping sighed. Su Zimo's expression darkened, and he remained silent. Back at the Immortal sect selection, if Yang Ruoxu had not withstood the pressure and even fought against Zither Immortal Mingyao, he would have died a long time ago. Yang Ruoxu was also the one who stepped in for the conflict in the outer sect and endured a lot of pressure and hostility. He was indebted to Yang Ruoxu. Now that Yang Ruoxu was in trouble, Su Zimo would definitely not sit by idly. Chapter 23-21 23-21 Human Nature 23-21 Human Nature. Before long, Su Zimo and Lu Ping arrived at Yang Ruoxu's cave abode. Not far away, a red light sped over it was Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Zimo, I heard that you're out of seclusion, so I came over right away. Indeed, you're here. Princess Scarlet Rainbow came forward and said. With a heavy heart, Su Zimo merely nodded slightly as a form of greeting. The three of them turned and looked at a cave abode not far away. In just a few days, the cave abode became dilapidated and cold. There were no immortal servants or Dao children waiting nearby. The medicinal field in the vicinity was trampled probably by a spirit beast or immortal pet, but no one took care of it. Inner sect disciples could choose 100 immortal servants or Dao children to help them deal with trivial matters. However, Su Zimo did not see a single Dao child of Yang Ruoxu along the way. Su Zimo pushed the door open and entered. The moment he entered the cave abode, he smelled a strong medicinal scent mixed with a hint of blood. The cave abode was dark, and no one even lit any candles. Su Zimo's expression darkened as he continued forward. Is someone here? Right then, a question sounded from ahead with a weak aura. The moment the sentence was said, a violent cough could be heard. Young master, don't get up. I'll go take a look. Right on the heels of that was a flurry of sounds. Before long, a Dao child ran out. His hair was disheveled, and he was covered in blood. He looked exhausted and must not have slept for a few days. You guys are? The Dao child spoke. I'm Su Zimo. I'm here to visit senior brother Yang. Su Zimo said in a deep voice. Ah. The Dao child was stunned for a moment before reacting. He seemed to have heard of the name Su Zimo before as he bowed to the three of them hurriedly. Greetings, exalted immortals. Please follow me. The Dao child could not be considered as a disciple of the academy and was merely an immortal servant. When he saw disciples of the academy, he had to address them respectfully as exalted immortals. Su Zimo and the other two followed the Dao child. After dozens of feet, they saw a jade bed in front of them with a man lying on it. His face was withered and yellow, and his life force was weak. It was Yang Ruoxu. Young master, you've got visitors. The Dao child ran to Yang Ruoxu's bed and knelt down, crying softly with a choked voice. Apart from Su Zimo and the other two, no one else had visited Yang Ruoxu in the past few days. Nobody even bothered to put on a pretense of friendliness. That was the reason why the Dao child felt a sense of sadness when he said that. I heard them. Yang Ruoxu smiled. Help me up. The Dao child stood up and supported Yang Ruoxu. He sat up and leaned against the head of the bed. Where are the other immortal servants? With a dark expression, Su Zimo asked with a frown, Why are you the only one? Humph. When he heard that, the Dao child suddenly became agitated and said angrily, They abandoned our young master and left to look for other backers. Don't say that. Yang Ruoxu smiled faintly. I was the one who dismissed them. It's difficult for me to recover from my serious injuries, and I don't have long to live. If they follow me, it'll only be a burden to them. However, you're in difficult times right now, young master. How can they abandon you and leave just like that? Young master, you treat us so well usually. You give us your spirit pills and essence spirit stones and let us cultivate with you. You even explain and impart the Tao to us, never once looking down on us because of our backgrounds. At that point, the Tao child was already sobbing. He pursed his lips and tried his best to hold back his tears. Young Ruoxu said, I know that it doesn't feel good. Since that's the case, why would I look down on and mock you guys? At that point, Princess Scarlet Rainbow's heart skipped a beat. She turned her head and her eyes reddened as she sighed internally. Human nature had many facades, both warm and cold. Young Ruoxu was an upright person and did not like to form cliques. Coupled with the fact that he was from the lower worlds, he was isolated in the academy and did not have many friends. Due to Sword Immortal Yuhua, other cultivators were not willing to get too close to him over the years. Now that young Ruoxu was in trouble, no one would come to visit him. However, the immortal servants and Dao children that followed young Ruoxu benefited the most from him usually. The fact that they had now left him was heart-wrenching. Young Ruoxu reached out and wiped away the tears on the Dao child's face gently, saying softly, Don't cry. You're still with me and haven't left. All right. The Dao child nodded vigorously. Don't worry, young master. As long as I'm not dead, I'll always guard you. Su Zimo walked forward and caressed the Dao child's forehead gently. The Dao child's eyelids felt heavy and he fell asleep in a daze. Su Zimo noticed that the Dao child had not slept for many days and was extremely exhausted. That was the reason why he released a dermic art to let him rest. Thank you. Young Ruoxu nodded slightly. Junior brother Su. Just as young Ruoxu spoke, he seemed to have thought of something. You've already been accepted as an in-name disciple by the sect master. I should address you as senior brother Su. There's no need for that between us. Su Zimo said, Brother Yang, if you don't mind, we can just address each other as brothers. Young Ruoxu hesitated for a moment before smiling. All right, I don't have long to live anyway. As such, I won't cause too much trouble for you. What's going on? Su Zimo asked in a deep voice. Young Ruoxu was silent for a long time before shaking his head. Forget it. There's no need to mention the past. I heard someone from the Pang clan attacked. Was it because of Pang Yu's death? Su Zimo asked. No. Young Ruoxu said, It was just a conflict that happened by chance and I was weaker than them. There's no one to blame. Young Ruoxu knew that if he told the truth, Su Zimo would definitely step in for him. At that time, the latter would definitely attract trouble. Although Su Zimo was an in-name disciple of the sect master, he had just joined the academy and his cultivation realm was not high could not defeat those people from the academy. Were people from the academy involved? When Su Zimo saw that young Ruoxu was unwilling to say more, he vaguely guessed something and asked again. Young Ruoxu remained silent. Pausing for a moment, young Ruoxu suddenly changed the topic. Right, there's something else that's a little strange. At that time, those people could have taken my life. However, they did not kill me and merely injured my essence spirit severely before leaving. Lu Ping turned his head slightly and analyzed. Senior brother Yang is an inner sect disciple of the academy after all. The people who attacked must have been wary and did not dare to go overboard. It's possible, young Ruoxu said in a low voice, however. I still feel that something is amiss, but I can't pinpoint the exact reason. Brother Su, it's best if you don't leave the academy for the time being and cultivate in seclusion for a period of time, young Ruoxu reminded again. Su Zimo did not comment and chatted with young Ruoxu for a while more. When he saw the latter's exhausted expression, he bid farewell together with Lu Ping and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Chapter 2322, 2322 Something Strange. 2322 Something Strange. After leaving young Ruoxu's cave abode, Su Zimo pondered for a moment and asked, Did anything happen outside recently? The greatest thing should be that Emperor Bo Sun escaped from Avici and returned to the heavenly world, Princess Scarlet Rainbow said. Emperor Bo Sun. Su Zimo was shocked. He knew about the martial Dao prime body heading to Avici to save Yin Beichen. However, after the martial Dao prime body entered Avici, he severed his connection with the Green Lotus true body. Even after 1,000 years, there was no reaction. It was as though the martial Dao prime body had vanished from the world. The Green Lotus true body did not know what happened in Avici either, let alone the fact that Emperor Bo-sun escaped. That was the reason why the Green Lotus True Body was so surprised when he heard that Emperor Bo-sun was still alive. Princess Scarlet Rainbow recounted the news about Avici. I heard that recently, many cultivators of the heavenly world have headed to Avici to check things out. Avici? Suzimo was in deep thought. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat and he said, "The Soraka fruit." What? Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Lu Ping were stunned. Suzimo said in a deep voice, "The Soraka fruit might be in Avici and it can heal Senior Brother Yang's essence spirit injuries." The matter of the Soraka fruit was known to the Martial Dao Prime Body prior to entering Avici. That was why the Green Lotus True Body knew about it as well. "Zimo, are you going to head to Avici?" Princess Scarlet Rainbow asked. "That's right." Suzimo did not choose to hide the truth. Even without the incident with Yang Ruoxu, he had considered whether he should make a trip to Avici. After all, that was where the Martial Dao Prime Body disappeared. Right now, it was even more imperative. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, "Avici is incomparably dangerous. I'll go with you." "I'll go too," Lu Ping said without hesitation as well. "There's no need." Suzimo shook his head. "I do have a favor to ask of the two of you. Senior Brother Su, please speak," Lu Ping said. Suzimo said, "Senior Brother Yang is severely injured, and it will be extremely difficult for him mentally and physically during this period of time. He doesn't have anyone protecting him. I'm worried that something might happen to him, so I hope that the two of you can visit him more during this period of time and help take care of him." Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, "Don't worry, we'll take good care of Senior Brother Yang. No matter what, wait for me to return." Suzimo reminded again. "All right." Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Lu Ping nodded. Lu Ping continued, "I'll go back and pack up now. I might as well move to Senior Brother Yang's place during this period of time and accompany him." "I'll go too," Princess Scarlet Rainbow said. "Guys, let's bid farewell here." Suzimo cupped his fists and bowed towards Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Lu Ping. He did not have anyone he could trust in Heaven and Earth Academy. Princess Scarlet Rainbow and Lu Ping were the only ones he could entrust this task to. Princess Scarlet Rainbow said, "Zimo, I hope that you can return safely with the Soraka fruit as well." The three of them flew through the air and left separately. Avici was indeed an unpredictable and dangerous place for others. However, Suzimo had the hell suppression tripod that was completely repaired with him. He believed that this treasure would definitely be of some use in Avici. Soraka fruit. Suddenly, Suzimo sneered. Yang Ruoxu was right. There was indeed something wrong with him being able to return alive. When Suzimo heard the news of Avici, he guessed that someone must be plotting in secret to attack him. The injury to Yang Ruoxu's essence spirit was bait. The other party predicted that he would leave Heaven and Earth Academy for Yang Ruoxu and head to Avici. That was the reason why they set up such a trap. "Let's see who are the ones who wants to lay their hands on me." Suzimo's expression was as cold as ever. The fact that Yang Ruoxu was severely injured triggered his killing intent. Just as Suzimo was pondering, a figure flashed before him and blocked his path. The person who arrived was the #1 fairy of the inner sect, Yin Bingying, who was on good terms with Fang Qingyun, Tang Peng, and the others. "Is there anything?" Naturally, Suzimo did not have a good attitude towards her either since he had a feud with Fang Qingyun and the others. Yin Bingying had a conflicted expression as she asked, "Senior Brother Su, where are you going? What has it got to do with you?" Suzimo asked expressionlessly. Suzimo did not waste time with her. He circled around Yin Bingying and sped in the direction of the sect's teleportation formation. "Senior Brother Su." Yin Bingying did not turn around, but a voice transmission from her spirit consciousness sounded in Suzimo's mind. "Don't ever go to Avici. That's all I have to say." Suzimo did not reply. In fact, he did not even pause and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Sigh. Yin Bingying looked at Suzimo's back view and sighed deeply. She knew that this paragon who had condensed a 10th stone step on the Tao Heart stairs was about to die prematurely. At the same time, in the depths of Heaven and Earth Academy, in an ancient cultivation palace, White smoke rose from the incense burner, shrouding the entire palace like a paradise. Through the smoke, an incomparably handsome middle-aged man could be vaguely seen. He wore a green scholarly robe and sat in a lotus position with his eyes closed to Re-Stit, was the sect master of the academy. Suddenly, the smoke surged and gathered towards the middle. Before long, a figure walked out slowly from the depths of the smoke. It was old Xian, who was guarding the various secret pavilions and was also Elder 10 of the academy. What is it? The moment the sect master opened his eyes, a boundless starry sky flashed within. There was smoke for thousands of kilometers, and a deep ocean surged. However, everything returned to normal in the blink of an eye. Those eyes became emotionless and clear. Have you heard the news of Avici? Old Xian asked bluntly. What do you think? There's something strange about it. The sect master said indifferently. I knew a long time ago that Emperor Bo-Sun escaped from Avici. Now that this news has spread through the heavenly world, someone must have done it on purpose. What do you mean? Old Xian frowned and asked, what's their motive for releasing this news intentionally? This might be a trap, the sect master said deeply. Right now, various factions are restless and countless cultivators are rushing to Avici to check things out. However, this piece of news might be mixed with fake information. For example, Avici might not have any cracks. Pissed. Old Xian's expression changed as he said sternly, if what you said is true, all the cultivators who enter Avici this time round will probably be buried there, and none of them will be able to come out. How many lives would be lost? Old Xian pondered for a moment before continuing. However, Emperor Bo-Sun did escape from there. This can't be faked. The reason why Emperor Bo-Sun was able to escape was because he was Emperor Bo-Sun. The sect master smiled gently and asked instead, however, how many Emperor Bo-Suns are there in this world? Which of the cultivators heading to Avici this time round can compare to Emperor Bo-Sun? Chapter 23:23, 23:23 Door of Death. 23:23 Door of Death. Of course, that's only my guess. It might not be accurate. The sect master of the academy smiled again and asked, why? You want to go to Avici too? Old Xian rolled his eyes. I'm not thinking about that damn place at my age. Pausing for a moment, he continued, however, I heard that Su Zimo is prepared to head to Avici. Oh, the sect master replied, seemingly unsurprised and uninterested. According to what you said, Avici is so dangerous. Aren't you worried about him at all? He's the in-name disciple you just accepted. Old Xian raised his brow slightly. He might not encounter any danger in Avici, the sect master said indifferently. Old Xian pouted. You divine that? Your divination is able to work for a place like Avici which can block the heavenly secrets? The sect master did not explain. It's also possible that he won't get the chance to enter Avici. Why? Old Xian asked with a frown. The sect master said, do you know about the inner sect disciple, Yang Ruoxu, getting injured? Old Xian pondered for a moment and narrowed his eyes slightly. You mean to say that someone made use of the fact that Yang Ruoxu's essence spirit was injured to lure Su Zimo to Avici on purpose and set up a trap in advance? The sect master did not say anything as a silent acknowledgement. In that case, it's not a coincidence that Yang Ruoxu was injured. In other words, disciples of the academy are involved in this matter. A cold glint flashed through Old Xian's eyes. Although he did not bother about sect matters usually, he was sharp and reacted extremely quickly. With a single sentence from the sect master, he had already deduced the gist of things. Old Xian glanced at the sect master and sneered, by the looks of it, you must have known who was behind this long ago. Why didn't you interfere? The sect master of the academy shook his head gently. Old Xian harumphed coldly. After you took over the academy, you ignored the fights between the disciples of the academy and allowed them to do whatever they wanted. There are many factions in the academy, and there are endless fights between them. What's in it for the academy? The sect master sighed gently. The benefit of that is that they can adapt to the cruel world outside and grow faster. If the academy is peaceful, How can they deal with those schemes and plots when they're traveling outside? That's the only way these disciples of the Academy can survive and establish themselves in the upper world if the Academy encounters a calamity. Old Xian remained silent. The sect master said, Su Zimo has the teleportation jade badge that I gave him. If he encounters any danger, he can crush the jade badge and teleport back. There shouldn't be any danger. That's true, Elder Xian said. However, that's Avici after all. Now that experts from all over the heavenly world have been alarmed, that lad's cultivation realm is still too low. It's not sufficient. Since you're still worried, I'll divine for him. The sect master smiled gently and waved his sleeves. The clouds before him surged and 8 ancient doors appeared. Every single door was etched with complicated and mysterious runes that shone faintly. The sect master changed hand seals repeatedly, and his fingertip entered the 8 doors. The 8 doors spun rapidly in midair, and a moment later, only one of them was left. It was still shimmering while the light of the other 7 dimmed. The door of death. Old Xian focused his gaze, and his expression changed as he hollered, "This trip is extremely dangerous." The sect master had a grim expression and frowned as well. "We can't let him leave the academy," Old Xian said in a deep voice. The sect master shook his head. He values loyalty and is going to Avici to look for the Soraka fruit in order to save Yang Ruoxu. If you stop him, it will definitely backfire. Old Xian pondered for a moment. "I'll follow and take a look. If anything happens, I'll be able to attack in time." "All right." The sect master nodded. "Be careful. If you encounter any danger, take him back right away. Don't fight." Old Xian had already turned to leave with his hands behind his back. Arriving at the sect's teleportation formation, Su Zimo matched the map and located the teleportation formation of Azura Monastery. With a flash of light, his figure vanished. Before long, when Su Zimo reappeared, he had already stepped foot onto the pure land of bliss and was surrounded by a destroyed ruin. Through some dilapidated walls, one could vaguely determine the origin and scale of the structures back then. This was Azura Monastery of Great Taiwei Mountain. The moment Su Zimo arrived, he saw many cultivators in midair turning into streaks of light that sped in the direction of Taiwei Mountain. During this period of time, countless cultivators entered Avici one after another. Releasing his spirit consciousness, Su Zimo scanned his surroundings carefully and did not find signs of anything suspicious. He took a deep breath and headed in the direction of Taiwei Mountain as well. Before long, his heart skipped a beat and he looked to his side. In the ruins over there was a tomb with a dilapidated straw hut beside it. The strange thing was that there was an old monk with long brows sitting on a tombstone. He raised his head slightly and looked in the direction of Taiwei Mountain in deep thought. The martial Dao Prime Body had once mentioned to the Green Lotus True Body that there was a strange old monk with long brows guarding the tomb in the depths of Azura Monastery. The Green Lotus True Body sized up the long-browed old monk but could not make out anything. He seemed just like an old man on the brink of death. Right then, the tomb keeper seemed to have sensed something and glanced sideways at Su Zimo. "Eh!" Suddenly, the tomb keeper exclaimed softly and turned around slowly. He stared at Su Zimo's face for a long time before smiling. Interesting. What did the tomb keeper discover? Was it the Green Lotus True Body? Or was it some other secrets he held? Why would the tomb keeper say that he was interesting? Suddenly, a possibility crossed Su Zimo's mind. The tomb keeper had seen the 2 true bodies before. Could the tomb keeper have seen through the Mara mask and saw the face of the martial Dao True Body? Could he have said that it was interesting because he saw the Green Lotus True Body now? If the tomb keeper could see through the Mara mask, what was his cultivation and background? The more Su Zimo thought about it, the more shocked he became. Both times, this tomb keeper managed to give him a sense of trepidation. Su Zimo cupped his fists and circled around the tomb, continuing forward. It was only when he was far away from Azura Monastery that he turned back and heaved a sigh of relief when he realized that he could no longer see the tomb keeper. On the other side, Old Xian had also arrived at Azura Monastery. He stuffed his hands into his sleeves and followed Su Zimo from afar. Before long, he passed by a tomb and suddenly stopped in his tracks. On a tombstone not far away sat a long-browed old monk. He was hunched and looked withered. Chapter 23-24, 23-24 Immortal Formation Trap. 23-24 Immortal Formation Trap. The long-browed old monk only had the cultivation of a black immortal and exuded a strong aura of twilight, as though he was half dead. Initially, old Xian did not take the long-browed old monk seriously. However, his intuition told him that this old monk did not seem ordinary. When he recalled the divination divined by the sect master of the academy, old Xian's heart skipped a beat as he thought to himself, was the door of death sign due to this person? Who are you? Old Xian narrowed his eyes and asked. A tomb keeper. The long-browed old monk was motionless and replied indifferently without even looking at old Xian. Tomb keeper? Old Xian sneered and extended his left hand, holding an octagonal hexagram disc. Suddenly, he took out 3 circular metal plates filled with runes with his right hand and held them between his fingers, immersing his spirit consciousness into them. Splash! A moment later, old Xian threw the 3 metal plates in his right hand into the divination disc. This divination technique was a secret skill of the academy known as the 6 trigram divination. Although this divination technique could not compare to the Qimeng techniques mastered by the sect master of the academy, it was still an extremely superior divination secret skill. Old Xian wanted to divine some information about the long-browed old monk to check out the situation. However, the 3 metal plates that were scattered on the divination disc displayed a chaotic divination that was disorderly, could not make heads or tails of it. Old Xian frowned slightly and put away the 3 metal plates. He restarted the divination and threw them into the divination disc once more. It was still in disarray, and the divination was chaotic. Crack, crack, crack. Right then, the 3 metal plates on the divination disc cracked. Clear cracks appeared on the disc as well. Old Xian's expression changed, and he looked up instinctively. On the tombstone, the tomb keeper turned around slowly with a dark gaze. He looked at old Xian and asked slowly, "What are you doing?" Old Xian shuddered. When he was looked at by that pair of eyes, it was as though his mind was struck by lightning. A strange power descended that he could not defend against at all. Old Xian opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. This is bad. Old Xian channeled his essence spirit and released a grotto heaven, tearing through the void. He wanted to enter the spatial tunnel and return to the academy right away. However, his grotto heaven collapsed the moment it was released. The moment old Xian entered the spatial tunnel, he was severely injured once more. His vision darkened and he fainted, floating in the spatial tunnel as the distance between him and Azura Monastery increased. On the other side, Su Zimo continued in the direction of Taiwei Mountain after leaving Azura Monastery. Before long, a warning flashed in his mind and he stopped in his tracks. Activate! A voice sounded from the side. Immediately after, a series of formation patterns appeared beneath his feet. An immortal formation was activated and Su Zimo had already entered it. Su Zimo had a calm expression as he sensed carefully. This immortal formation did not restrict his combat strength at all. However, the immortal formation blocked the surroundings and formed a sealed space that was isolated from the outside world. He was gradually surrounded by figures. Ha 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 ha. A smug and familiar laughter sounded. Without turning back, Su Zimo could guess that the person behind him was Prince Yuanzhua. Su Zimo, you didn't expect this, right? We meet again. Prince Yuan's was said with a smug smile. He had waited for this moment for too long. Su Zimo turned back. Prince Yuanzhua was not alone. He had hundreds of followers. More than 10 of them were execution guards, while the rest were high-level heaven immortals whose cultivation realms far surpassed his. You're Su Zimo? Who are you? Su Zimo raised his brow and asked. My Dao title is Gue Yuan, and I'm here to kill you on the orders of Senior Sister Meng Yao. Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan was alone without any other disciples of Flying Immortal sect. He did not need backup either. In the inner sect of Flying Immortal sect, his combat strength was enough to be ranked in the top 5. The Zither Immortal? Su Zimo sneered. I'm truly living rent-free in Fairy Meng Yao's mind. If we meet again, I'll have to thank her properly. Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan could tell that Su Zimo was mocking her. A cold glint flashed through his eyes as he said indifferently, You won't get that chance. Su Zimo, I'll make you pay with blood for my brother's life today. A man with a dark expression walked over murderously from not far away. He was alone as well. The person's face was 70% similar to the dead Pang Yu. With a single thought, Su Zimo guessed the background of this person. Someone from the Pang clan? Su Zimo asked. You're smart. Pang Yi said slowly. I'm Pang Yi, Pang Yu's brother. Oh, Su Zimo replied and nodded. That's perfect. I'll send you on your way today. You two can accompany one another in hell. Ha 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 ha. Pang Yi was so angry that he laughed instead. Good, good, good. Su Zimo, you're still so brazen even at the brink of death. Let's see who dies first today. Su Zimo, do you remember me? A voice sounded. From another direction, a noble man strode over with hundreds of high-level heaven immortals behind him. Xie Tianhong of the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom. Of course I remember. Su Zimo grinned. I even said that I'll give you a huge gift the next time we meet. That's right. I'm truly looking forward to it. Xie Tianhong smiled as well. However, I wonder if you'll like this huge gift today. It's good that all of you are gathered. That saves me the trouble of having to look for you one by one. Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo declared, Who else is there? Stand out and let me take a look. Junior brother Su, how have you been? Another voice sounded and Tang Peng walked out from the depths of the immortal formation, appearing slowly with a sneer on his face. Su Zimo was not surprised to see Tang Peng. Are you alone? Su Zimo asked again. Tang Peng shrugged his shoulders gently. Of course, I alone am enough. What a pity. Su Zimo shook his head. Prince Yuan Zhua and the others exchanged glances and felt that something was amiss. Su Zimo's reaction was completely different from what they had imagined. He did not panic, fear, beg for mercy, or even escape. He was way too calm. Just as Prince Yuan Zhua was about to get worried, he recalled that he had a backup plan that could make up for things if anything went wrong. Today, Su Zimo was dead for sure. Why did you guys mobilize so many high-level heaven immortals to set up this immortal formation? Su Zimo asked unhurriedly. Prince Yuanzhua said, This immortal formation can block spirit consciousness detection. Even if someone passes by here, they won't be able to sense anything. Su Zimo, don't expect anyone to save you. Prince Yuanzhua and the others had planned for this moment for a long time and naturally would not make any mistakes. They wanted to eliminate all possible changes in advance. Chapter 23-25, 23-25, all of you have to die. 23-25, all of you have to die. Pang Yi said coldly, Su Zimo, you don't have to harbor any fantasies. Even your senior brother, who was a grade 9 heaven immortal, was crippled by us. At the mention of Yang Ruoxu, Su Zimo's gaze turned even colder. He glared at Tang Peng and said slowly, You deserve to die for joining forces with outsiders to attack cultivators of the same sect. Tang Peng felt chills run down his spine from Su Zimo's gaze. Others might not know Su Zimo's identity, but Tang Peng knew that Su Zimo had already been accepted as an in-name disciple by the sect master of the academy and had a noble status. If Su Zimo were to return to the academy alive, he would definitely not be able to escape the punishment of the academy's sect rules and would definitely die. Furthermore, he had personally witnessed the scene of Su Zimo condensing the 10th stone step of the Tao Heart Stairsit was way too shocking. Although Su Zimo was only a grade 2 heaven immortal, he was not confident and was worried that something might happen. Tang Peng gulped and grit his teeth. Everyone, don't waste your breath on him. Let's cripple his cultivation first before torturing him slowly. Attack, Xie Tianhong said in a deep voice. The moment he said that, Prince Yuan Zhua, Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan, Peng Yi, and Xie Tianhong attacked at the same time. The hundreds of Heaven Immortal experts behind Prince Yuan Zhua and Xie Tianhong did not move. The four of them had long agreed that there was no need for so many people to attack Su Zimo together. With so many Heaven Immortal experts attacking at the same time, if all of them released a dermic art, divine power, or dermic treasure, Su Zimo might be killed by accident. The four of them wanted to capture Su Zimo alive and cripple his cultivation so that they could torture him properly. For Xie Tianhong, if he could bring Su Zimo, who was alive, to Zither Immortal Mengyao, the latter would definitely be even happier. The hundreds of Heaven Immortal experts behind the two of them were just in case. After all, both of them were princes of immortal kingdoms. It was not difficult for them to mobilize hundreds of Heaven Immortal experts. All of you have to die. Su Zimo's expression was cold, and his gaze was like lightning. His glabella shone, and an ancient bronze square tripod flew out slowly. There were lifelike patterns of living beings etched on the four walls of the tripod. This tripod again? Prince Yuanzhua focused his gaze. Back then, when Feng Cantian escaped from Absolute Thunder City, he relied on this bronze square tripod to kill in all directions and retrieve his Destiny Spirit treasure. Back then, this bronze square tripod was a little dilapidated and its walls were filled with cracks. Right now, the bronze square tripod looked intact. The Hell Suppression tripod had descended. Prince Yuanzhua, Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan, Peng Yi, and Xie Tianhong paused for a moment at the same time and glared at the living being patterns on the Hell Suppression tripod's walls with a sense of trepidation. The four tripod walls corresponded to four people. Everyone saw the pattern of a different living being. However, the living beings on each tripod wall exuded an aura that came from the wild universe. They were ancient and mysterious, possessing endless might. This is... Xie Tianhong glared at the spirit turtle-like living being on the tripod wall, not far away. The living being carried a turtle shell on its back and stood on the sea on all fours. However, it had two heads that resembled a turtle and a snake coiling around one another. Pissed, Xie Tianhong suddenly gasped. The sacred spirit of the black tortoise. A thought flashed through his mind. He did not know what the black tortoise pattern on the wall of the tripod meant. However, weapons and dermic treasures that were related to the black tortoise definitely possessed unimaginable terrifying might. Retreat. Xie Tianhong was extremely cautious and made a prompt decision. He was the first to retreat among the four of them. On the other side, Prince Yuanzhua had witnessed the terror of the Hell Suppression tripod and was wary to begin with. Now that he was staring at the divine dragon on the tripod wall, he felt his heart skip a beat and slowed down instinctively. As for Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan and Peng Yi, they had never fought Su Zimo before and did not know him at all, let alone know what the bronze square tripod was. Both of them noticed Xie Tianhong retreating and Prince Yuanzhua was slowing down. However, they could not react in time. Right then, the four sacred spirits on the walls of the Hell Suppression tripod suddenly opened their eyes and released divine lights. The Hell Suppression tripod had devoured a few treasures in succession in the 9 heavens, and its body had long recovered. Now that the power of the four sacred souls was replenished, they were all awakened. Roar! Roar! Ow! The four sacred souls burrowed out of the Hell Suppression tripod and let out a series of roars that were either high-pitched, violent, sharp, or heavy. Each of the four sacred souls could match a top-grade 9 Heaven Immortal if they descended individually. Back on the Dragon Abyss Star, a vermilion bird sacred soul killed a top Heaven Immortal, Meiji. Now that the Hell Suppression tripod was completely repaired, the power of the four sacred souls was even stronger than before. The vermilion bird's sacred soul flew out of the Hell Suppression tripod. It was scarlet all over and flapped its wings. Scarlet flames flowed on its body and dripped continuously like lava. Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan was facing the tripod wall of the vermilion bird's sacred soul and was caught off guard by this change. The eyes of the vermilion bird's sacred soul contained a supreme might as he looked at Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan, as though he was looking at an ant. The moment he was distracted, the vermilion bird's sacred soul had already surged towards him. The scorching heat wave almost burned through Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan's body. His body burned with flames from the inside out. With his life on the line, Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan shrieked tragically and channeled his essence spirit wildly, releasing a supreme divine power, wanting to protect himself and escape from this place. However, the moment his supreme divine power was formed, it was burned cleanly by the flames of the vermilion bird's sacred soul. That was the vermilion bird's sacred fire and was even stronger than the southern Mingli fire. The vermilion bird's sacred soul swept past Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan and barely even had to attack. There was only a ball of ashes left where Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan was, scattering with the wind. Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan was burned to ashes. Pang Yi's situation was not much better than Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan. He was not prepared either when he saw a tiger covered in white fur charge out from the tripod wall opposite him. It was surrounded by a malevolent aura and was filled with blood chi that was almost corporeal. The white tiger's sacred soul was positioned on the west side and specialized in killing. Every single hair on the white tiger's sacred soul that fell off possessed supreme killing power that could split galaxies and annihilate all living beings. Pang Yi felt his limbs go cold from the stare of the white tiger's sacred soul, and his body stiffened, as though he had lost the ability to escape. He was so scared that his face turned pale as he crushed a jade pendant on his waist hurriedly. Right then, the white tiger's sacred soul lunged forward. Shing! An ear-piercing sound rang. Pang Yi's pupils constricted as the protective barrier around him was torn apart by the white tiger's sacred soul. The white tiger's sacred soul thrust in and slapped down with its claws that shone with cold lights. Pang Yi's body was torn apart by the gigantic tiger claws, and his essence spirit was destroyed, dying on the spot. Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan and Pang Yi were unlucky. Among the four sacred souls, the vermilion bird's sacred soul and white tiger's sacred soul were the most ferocious. Furthermore, they were caught off guard. None of them expected Su Zimo to be able to use methods that could threaten them. In the blink of an eye, they died on the spot. Chapter 2326, 2326 Massacre, 2326 Massacre. On the other side, the black tortoise sacred soul charged out of the hell suppression tripod, and a tsunami seemed to have formed beneath it. Although it looked clumsy and massive, it traveled on the ocean at an astonishing speed and charged towards Xie Tianhong aggressively. Xie Tianhong was the first to realize that something was amiss and retreat. Therefore, his reaction time was longer than the other three. The moment the black tortoise sacred soul charged out, he had already condensed a supreme divine power to attack it. Boom! The supreme divine power struck the black tortoise sacred soul. However, the black tortoise sacred soul was indifferent. Beams of light shone from its turtle shell, neutralizing the power of the supreme divine power. Xie Tianhong made use of the momentum to retreat as well. The hundreds of Heaven Immortal experts behind him swarmed forward and released many supreme divine powers, divine weapons, and dermic treasures, smashing towards the black tortoise sacred soul. The killing attacks of the black tortoise sacred soul were not considered strong. However, its defense was supreme among the four sacred souls. The black tortoise sacred soul roared into the skies, and a torrential wave surged behind it. The ravines on the turtle shell shone brightly. Many divine powers and dermic treasures passed through the massive waves, and their strength was reduced significantly. When they eventually smashed onto the black tortoise sacred soul's shell, the damage to it was minimized. Prince Yuanzhua was not as decisive as Xie Tianhong to retreat right away. However, he still slowed down and was on guard. Therefore, the moment the Azure Dragon's sacred soul opened its eyes in the tripod wall opposite him, he realized that something was amiss. As he retreated, he condensed a divine power and secret skill and attacked forward. Bang! 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 The Azure Dragon charged out at an extremely fast speed and pushed forward, shattering the few divine powers and secret skills of Prince Yuanzhua. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before him. It was way too domineering. Prince Yuanzhua had long summoned a gigantic shield in front of him. Boom! There was a loud bang. The Azure Dragon's sacred soul collided heavily against the shield and exploded. A tremendous power passed through the shield and sent Prince Yuanzhua flying. Prince Yuanzhua spat out a mouthful of blood with a dispirited expression. Although he was injured, his outcome was much better than Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan and Pang Yi. At the very least, he managed to survive. Such an injury was nothing for a Grade 9 Heaven Immortal. With that slight delay, the hundreds of Heaven Immortal experts behind Prince Yuanzhua charged forward at the same time and attacked. Roar! The Azure Dragon's sacred soul reared its head and howled with rage in its eyes. It was as though it was enraged that it could not kill Prince Yuanzhua instantly. It spiraled upwards and rose. Its massive and slender dragon body was filled with dense and tough green scales. Its dragon claws were sharp and shone with a cold glint. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the clouds. The divine powers and dermic treasures of hundreds of Heaven Immortal experts came to nothing. Suddenly, an incomparably thick dragon tail swung out from the clouds. Carrying the might of thunder that could sweep through an army, it created a violent gust of wind and descended instantly. Poof, poof, poof. More than 200 Heaven Immortal experts of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom could not dodge in time and were swept over by the Azure Dragon's tail, exploding into blood mists. Their essence spirits were destroyed on the spot by a single swipe of the dragon's tail. 2 Heaven Execution Guards wore heavy armor, but none of them could defend against the power of the Azure Dragon's tail. Their armor shattered and the shards entered their bodies, killing them on the spot. The dragon tail swept through the void and a blood-red region appeared. There was no one alive. Prince Yuanzhua, Xie Tianhong, Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan, and Pang Yi joined forces. But now, they were shattered by the 4 sacred souls. The 4 sacred souls killed in all directions. Su Zimo knew that he might be ambushed, but he still dared to come alone. It was because he was backed by the 4 sacred souls in the Hell Suppression Tripod. Unless a perfected immortal appeared, the 4 sacred souls could kill everyone in this immortal formation. Under Su Zimo's will, the White Tiger sacred soul that killed Pang Yi targeted Tang Pong, who was not far away. Tang Pong was scared out of his wits by the scene before him. They were in high spirits earlier on. In the blink of an eye, corpses were strewn everywhere and blood flowed like rivers. Even Heaven Immortal Gue Yuan and Pang Yi died on the spot. Suddenly, Tang Pong felt a chill run down his spine. This is bad. I've been targeted. Tang Pong was alarmed. He was a disciple of the academy after all, and reacted extremely quickly. Channeling his blood chi, his figure flashed and he transformed into a streak of light, leaving the spot instantly. Tang Pong had once obtained a great opportunity and swapped blood through marrow cleansing with a trace of the rock bloodline in his body. In the inner sect of the academy, Tang Pong was known as the #1 in movement techniques. Right after he left the spot, a gigantic tiger claw descended from the skies. If he was any slower, he would have been torn into pieces by the tiger claw. Roar! After missing his attack, the white tiger glared at Tang Pong and roared before giving chase once more. Tang Peng's heart skipped a beat. He had witnessed the scene of Pang Yi's death and did not dare to fight the white tiger head-on as he turned to flee. However, he was restricted by the immortal formation and did not have the chance to leave. He could only sprint wildly on the battlefield without daring to relax. Tang Pong, you can't escape. Right then, Su Zimo's voice sounded faintly and entered his ears. Screech. Immediately after, the cry of a phoenix sounded. Up ahead, a scarlet sea of flames surged and blocked Tang Peng's path. In the sea of flames, the vermilion bird's sacred soul appeared and flapped its scarlet wings. It glared at Tang Pong without any emotions in its eyes. Roar! Behind Tang Pong, the white tiger growled. The vermilion bird blocked his path at the front, while the white tiger hunted him from the back. In order to kill Tang Pong, Su Zimo made the two sacred souls join force. It was clear how determined he was. Junior brother Su and no, I mean senior brother Su. Tang Peng tried his best to squeeze out a smile and begged for mercy. I was bewitched and committed such a huge mistake. Please spare my life on account of our relationship as fellow sect mates. His voice was quivering. No matter how fast he was, his speed was far inferior to the true rock race. Notwithstanding two sacred souls, even the vermilion bird's sacred soul alone could hunt him down to his death, could not escape. What relationship do we have? Su Zimo sneered with a mocking expression. Senior brother Su, I can swear that. Just as Tang Peng was about to say something, his figure vanished from the spot before he could finish. Supreme divine power, teleportation. When he reappeared, Tang Peng was already behind Su Zimo. Don't move. The moment he said that, he realized that something was amiss. Although the person he grabbed had his back facing him, it was not Su Zimo. Instead, it was a lifeless corpse. Nether swap. The moment he released teleportation, Su Zimo released nether swap and swapped positions with a corpse not far away. By the time Tang Peng realized this, it was already too late. Not far away, he saw the mockery on Su Zimo's face, the flames of the vermilion bird's sacred soul and the sharp claws of the white tiger's sacred soul. Chapter 23-27 23-27 Arrival of Perfected Immortals 23-27 Arrival of Perfected Immortals. Two people stood side by side on Taiwei Mountain and looked at the entrance of Avici from afar without advancing rashly. One of them was Perfected Immortal Jingyu of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, the former Green Cloud County governor. He accompanied Prince Yuan Zhua to the Pure Land of Bliss. The other person was the old man who was driving the carriage for Xie Tianhong. Although he looked ordinary and was short, he was also at the cultivation of a perfected immortal. The reason why the two of them followed him was to ensure that nothing went wrong. Of course, in their opinion, nothing could happen if the four factions joined forces to deal with Su Zimo. Therefore, the two of them did not follow Prince Yuan Zhua and Xie Tianhong. Instead, they came to Taiwei Mountain to check out the legendary Avici. Fellow Taoist, after this matter is over, do you have any plans to head down and check things out? Perfected Immortal Jingyu asked. This is the most notorious forbidden ground in history. My old life won't be able to withstand such torture. Although the old man said that, a glint flashed through the depths of his eyes and he was eager to give it a shot. He did not have much lifespan left. However, there were countless treasures and inheritances in Avici. He might be able to obtain some opportunities and encounters within that could extend his lifespan. Or it could help him in breaking through his cultivation realm. Avici could be said to be the best preserved ruin in history, and there were countless treasures inside. It would be a lie to say that he was not tempted. In part, the old man followed Xie Tianhong here this time round for his own reasons too. He did not have much lifespan left and might as well give it a shot and try his luck in Avici. As though he could tell that the old man did not mean what he said, Perfected Immortal Jingyu smiled. Fellow Taoist Imperial Dragon, you must be joking. Back then, when you relied on a single Imperial Dragon Immortal Whip to dominate the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, I was only a junior. The old man who was driving Xie Tianhong's carriage was also a top-tier expert among perfected immortals when he was at his peak. However, now that he was in his twilight years, his combat strength was much weaker. Suddenly, Perfected Immortal Jingyu's expression changed as he swept his palm across his storage bag and withdrew a shattered soul badge. These soul badges were condensed for the hundreds of heaven immortal experts around Prince Yuan Zhua. The shattering of the soul badges meant that these people had already died. At the same time, Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon frowned and took out a pile of shattered soul badges from his storage bag. Something has happened. The hearts of the two perfected immortals skipped a beat. Without hesitation, they turned around and sped towards Great Taiwei Mountain. This battle was concealed by an immortal formation set up by four factions. No matter how much of a commotion broke out inside, no one outside could sense it. Before long, The two perfected immortals arrived before the immortal formation. Perfected immortal Jingyu conjured hand seals repeatedly with both hands and broke through a crack in the immortal formation. He barged in with perfected immortal imperial dragon, and his expression changed when he saw the sight before him. It was way too tragic. The combined forces of the four factions were crushed by the four gigantic living beings that danced and roared in midair, and corpses were strewn everywhere. More than half of the hundreds of heaven immortal experts that Prince Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong each brought were dead. Although the remaining heaven immortal experts were trying their best to resist together, it was clear that they could not hold on any longer and could collapse at any moment. The only thing that made the two perfected immortals feel slightly relieved was that Prince Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong survived. Although Prince Yuanzhua looked injured, he was fine. However, his face was pale and he had a frightened expression, as though he was shocked. Perfected Immortal Jingyu and Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon entered the immortal formation and did not attack right away because the two of them were stunned by the four sacred souls in midair as well. Although the four sacred souls did not have flesh and physique and could only be considered as essence spirit souls, the aura they exuded was no different from true sacred beasts. The four sacred beasts. Pissed? Impossible. The two perfected immortals shuddered. If the four sacred beasts were here, they would have to escape as well. Even if they had the ability to kill the four sacred beasts, they did not dare to. Something's not right. Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon reacted quickly and said sternly, "These are not the true four sacred beasts. They don't have blood chi or bodies and are merely in the form of souls." Perfected Immortal Jingyu quickly discovered that although the might of the four sacred souls was terrifying, the power released was not enough to threaten them. Swoosh! Suddenly, Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon summoned a long whip and whipped the white tiger who was in a massacre not far away. Initially, the whip was limp and weak. However, when true essence surged in, it turned incomparably tough instantly and pierced the white tiger's sacred soul like a spear. Roar! The white tiger's sacred soul was severely injured as it howled. Although the four sacred souls swept through the heaven immortals in this battle, it took a huge toll on their strength. After receiving such a serious injury, the glow on the white tiger's sacred soul dimmed rapidly and it turned into a streak of light. It entered the hell suppression tripod in Su Zimo's consciousness and fell asleep. On the other side, Perfected Immortal Jingyu attacked at the same time and summoned an ancient bronze mirror. He channeled his Tao fruit and true essence condensed. Swoosh! The vermilion bird's sacred soul could not defend against it either, and its glow dimmed. No matter how strong the four sacred souls were, they had not broken through to the Perfected One realm. The four sacred souls could not defend against the power of a perfected immortal at all. Jingyu, hurry and kill Su Zimo. Prince Yuanzhua was invigorated when he saw Perfected Immortal Jingyu and Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon arrive in time. He shouted hurriedly and hid in the crowd, pointing at Su Zimo who was not far away. Perfected Immortal Jingyu's gaze shifted and locked onto Su Zimo. "Young man, I have to admit that I was wrong back then." Perfected Immortal Jingyu had not expected that this cultivator of the lower worlds he had unintentionally brought out from an essence spirit mine would turn the great Jin immortal kingdom upside down. This lad had also made quite a name for himself in the divine firmament immortal domain. "Back then, I was the one who noticed you and brought you away from the dark essence spirit mine." Perfected Immortal Jingyu said slowly, "Your death in my hands today can be considered as a cycle of karma." The moment he said that, the ancient bronze mirror in midair changed directions and aimed at Su Zimo below, shining down. Even the vermilion bird's sacred soul could not defend against the power of the ancient bronze mirror, let alone Su Zimo, who was only a grade 2 heaven immortal. However, Su Zimo's reaction was extremely fast. When he saw Perfected Immortal Jingyu and Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon arrive, he realized that it would be difficult for him to kill the remaining people with just the four sacred souls. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he had a plan. Just as Perfected Immortal Jingyu attacked, He channeled his spirit consciousness, and the black tortoise, sacred soul, stepped onto the sea and shielded him. Beams of resplendent light burst forth from the gigantic turtle shell and fought against the ancient bronze mirror in midair. On the other side, perfected immortal imperial dragon waved his whip and coiled it towards the azure dragon sacred soul. The imperial dragon immortal whip was made from the tendons of a divine dragon. That was the reason for its name. However, the divine dragon before him was no ordinary divine dragon. It was one of the four sacred souls, the azure dragon. No matter how strong the imperial dragon immortal whip was, it could not trap the azure dragon. The azure dragon's sacred soul roared into the skies and broke free from the restraints of the imperial dragon immortal whip instantly. Instead of attacking the two perfected immortals, it charged towards a formation eye of the immortal formation. Chapter 23-28, 23-28 Hell, 2328 Hell. He wants to dispel the formation and escape. When Xie Tianhong noticed the actions of the azure dragon's sacred soul, he reacted right away and shouted. The moment he said that, the azure dragon's sacred soul struck the formation eye and let out a deafening bang. The immortal formation shook as though the world was collapsing. That was where perfected immortal Jingyu and perfected immortal imperial dragon entered earlier on. The immortal formation had just closed and was at its weakest when it was struck by the azure dragon's sacred soul. The azure dragon's sacred soul dissipated and turned into a streak of light, entering Su Zimo's consciousness. At the same time, the formation eye was destroyed instantly. The opportunity was fleeting, and the two perfected immortals were watching covetously. Once Su Zimo was locked on, it would be difficult for him to escape given his cultivation. Therefore, the moment he dispelled the formation, Su Zimo released his teleportation technique without holding back and escaped from the range of the immortal formation. Thereafter, he released the true Dragon 9 flashes. At level 2 Heaven Essence Realm, Su Zimo could already flash 7 times in succession and cross more than 1,000 feet to arrive above the strait. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks of the two perfected immortals arrived, but all of them came to nothing. Su Zimo released his innate divine power that transformed into a pair of rock wings behind him. Turning into a golden streak of light, he sped towards Tai Wei Mountain. Ha 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 ha. Su Zimo's laughter sounded. You think you can kill me with your puny methods? Chase. Xie Tianhong's expression was dark. When he heard Su Zimo's laughter, he felt that it was extremely ear-piercing and hollered. Without waiting for him to speak, the two perfected immortals chased after Su Zimo right away. Prince Yuan Zhua and Xie Tianhong brought the remaining Heaven Immortal experts and followed. With the help of the rock wings, Su Zimo's movement technique was extremely fast. Given the fact that he was a step ahead, even the two perfected immortals could not catch up to him in time. Before long, Su Zimo arrived at the peak of Tai Wei Mountain. He strode towards the entrance of Avici in huge strides and stood at the edge of the dark abyss. He turned to look at everyone who was chasing him and sneered. If you want to kill me, come to Avici. With that said, Su Zimo leaped into the abyss of the Hell's Gate. By the time the two perfected immortals arrived, it was already too late, and they could only see Su Zimo's back view as he fell. The two perfected immortals exchanged glances and could see the fear in each other's eyes. Even with their cultivation realms, they did not dare to be so decisive in the face of a dangerous place like Avici. To think that this low-level Heaven Immortal would jump down directly, chase after him. When Xie Tianhong arrived, he strode towards the Hell's Gate with a resolute expression. Your Highness, be careful. Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, How about this? I'll head down to explore Avici in place of you, Your Highness. It's not appropriate for you to take the risk with your precious body. It's fine. Xie Tianhong waved it off. This lad has provoked me time and again. I'll definitely suppress him personally. Furthermore, since I'm here, this might be my opportunity. Almost everyone in this world would subconsciously think that they were the favored children of the heavens, and would be accompanied by countless opportunities and encounters. Given Xie Tianhong's background, that was the feeling he had. Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon wanted to persuade him further, but Xie Tianhong said, "You don't have to worry. I have the teleportation jade badge given to me by Father. If I encounter any danger I can't deal with, I'll crush this jade badge and leave directly." On second thought, Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon truly did not have to worry about anything since Xie Tianhong had such a teleportation jade badge. He no longer stopped Xie Tianhong and leaped down first. Xie Tianhong and the Heaven Immortal experts behind him jumped down as well. "Jingyu, take my men down and join forces with Xie Tianhong and the others. Don't let Su Zimo escape this time round." Prince Yuan's was said in a deep voice. "All right." Perfected Immortal Jingyu agreed without hesitation. The reason why he came this time round was because he wanted to take a look at Avici as well. It was exactly his intention to head down now. "What about you, Your Highness?" Perfected Immortal Jingyu asked. Prince Yuanzhua hesitated for a moment. "I'm not going down. I'll wait for your victorious return on Great Taiwei Mountain." This change had truly scared him. Previously, he hunted down Su Zimo repeatedly and plotted against the latter. Although he failed time and again, he did not feel threatened. "All right," Perfected Immortal Jingyu said. "Your Highness, take care. Everyone, follow me." With that said, Perfected Immortal Jingyu leaped into Avici as well. Apart from them, many cultivators arrived here during this period of time and charged into Avici. The Hell's Gate was like the mouth of a primordial beast, waiting for countless prey to send themselves to it. Prince Yuanzhua glanced at the abyss below and could not help but shudder. With a wary expression, he turned and walked towards Great Taiwei Mountain. After Su Zimo fell into Avici, he realized that this was a world of its own with different laws. His spirit consciousness could not be activated. In other words, he could not use any divine powers or secret skills in Avici. After the martial Tao prime body entered Avici, the connection with the Green Lotus true body was severed. Therefore, the Green Lotus true body knew nothing about the situation in Avici. Thankfully, he had the Hell Suppression tripod in his consciousness. Furthermore, he cultivated the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and could be considered as the successor of the Infinite Great Emperor. Even if there was any danger in Avici, it should not pose much of a threat to him. Figures leaped down from above. Su Zimo scoffed coldly. The reason why he slowed down intentionally was to lure Prince Yuanzhua, Xie Tianhong, and the others down. He could not kill them all with the four sacred souls. However, Avici might become their tomb. After a long time, Su Zimo finally descended. He landed on his feet and surveyed his surroundings. The place he was in was like a sinister and terrifying karst cave. There were many strange black stones that were steep and sharp. The terrain here was complicated and long corridors and filthy black rivers could be seen. There were layers of terraced fields and grasslands. There were also some coral formed from black rocks, stone pagodas, and stone waterfalls. With no signs of carving, it was as though they were crafted by the gods. Here, Su Zimo did not sense any signs of life. He did not dare to be careless and surveyed his surroundings before heading in a direction. After taking a few steps, he saw a figure lying on the ground not far away. Su Zimo walked closer to take a look. This person wore a monk robe, and his flesh was intact. Clearly, he had just died not long ago and was a monk who entered Avici this time round. Although the monk did not have any injuries on his body, his face was purple and he had a horrified expression. Before his death, he seemed to have suffered immense pain and fear. Su Zimo did not dare to touch the person's corpse. He circled around the person and continued forward. Before long, he caught sight of another cultivator. The cultivator died in the same manner as the previous monk. However, this person wielded a dermic treasure that had 6 burn marks on it, as though it had been struck by lightning. A sentient dermic treasure. This person might be a perfected immortal. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Those burn marks were left behind when cultivators entered the perfected One realm and welcomed the heavenly tribulation to refine their dermic treasures. If there were 9 burn marks, it could be called a pure Yang spirit treasure. But now, not only was the perfected Immortal dead, the spirit treasure's glow was dim, and it was crippled as well. Chapter 23-29, 23-29 Familiar Voice. 23-29 Familiar Voice. If even a perfected Immortal died here, it was clear that there was indeed an unknown terrifying power in Avici. Avici crossed the eras and countless years had passed. Yet, the laws of this space were still intact. It was clear how terrifying this place was. It was no wonder why the martial Tao Prime body severed his connection with the Green Lotus True Body after entering Avici. After Su Zimo entered Avici, he tried to communicate with the martial Tao Prime body. However, he still could not sense anything, as though the latter had vanished from the world. The only thing he was certain of was that the martial Tao Prime body was not dead yet. The two true bodies were telepathic. If the martial Tao Prime body died, the Green Lotus True Body would definitely sense it. Right then, figures descended from the skies, one after another. Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon, Xia Tianhong, and the others had arrived and landed here. Over there. After Xia Tianhong entered Avici, the first thing he saw was Su Zimo. Pointing at him from afar, he hollered, "Chase after him. Be careful, Your Highness." Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon had a grim expression and said in a deep voice, "The power of the Essence Spirit can't be used in Avici." Upon realizing that, Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon was secretly alarmed. The fact that he was unable to activate his Essence Spirit meant that he could not release divine powers, secret skills, or his spirit consciousness. His perception of the surrounding danger would also be minimized. It's fine. Because he had the teleportation jade badge, Xia Tianhong was confident and analyzed calmly. None of us can use our essence spirits. It doesn't make a difference. We can only rely on our blood chi and physiques. You're a perfected immortal and have true essence to temper your flesh and blood. This lad is not your match. Perfected Immortal Imperial Dragon was silent. In Avici, anything could be much more dangerous than Su Zimo. That was because he had already seen a perfected immortal monk who died not far away. At the same time, Perfected Immortal Jing Yu descended with a group of heaven immortal experts from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Let's chase after him first. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's eyes flashed and his lips curled. With that lad leading the way, he'll be the first to encounter any danger. This is a rare opportunity. Xie Tianhong's eyes lit up. That's right. Thereafter, the two perfected immortals and Xie Tianhong chased after Su Zimo with more than 400 heaven immortal experts. Su Zimo knew nothing about the terrain of Avici. He could only continue forward, crossing mountains and rivers. After running for about an hour, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, he stopped and stared at the ground on both sides. Faint purple lights shone from the gaps between the rocks on both sides and twisted slightly. They were extremely fast and meandered towards him. The purple lights were as thin as a cow's hair and resembled a snake-type living being. If one was not careful, it would be difficult to detect them in this dark environment. Along the way, Su Zimo saw many cultivators who had died recently. All of them died in strange and menacing ways with purple faces and no other wounds on their bodies. Now that he thought about it, there was a high chance that those cultivators died in the hands of these purple snakes. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless and was about to attack. As though they sensed immense fear, the purple snakes retreated in all directions before they even arrived before Su Zimo and fled wildly. Although he was slightly stunned, Su Zimo understood instantly. It was most likely because of the Hell Suppression Tripod. Although the Hell Suppression Tripod was in his consciousness, the purple snakes could still sense its aura when they were close. This bronze square tripod was created by the Infinite Great Emperor to suppress Avici in the past. No matter how strong the living beings in Hell were, they could not defend against the might of the Hell Suppression Tripod. Su Zimo paused for a moment and continued forward. Because they could not use divine powers or secret skills, some heaven immortal cultivators with weak physiques and blood chi were gradually left behind by Su Zimo along the way. Only the two perfected immortals, Xie Tianhong and more than 10 other cultivators, could catch up to Su Zimo. The purple snakes did not dare to touch Su Zimo. As for the two perfected immortals, Xie Tianhong and the others, they were not too far away from Su Zimo, and the purple snakes did not dare to attack rashly either. However, the heaven immortal experts at the back were ambushed. The attacks of the purple snakes were extremely strange. After climbing onto a cultivator's body, they would not bite any wounds on the cultivator. Instead, they would burrow into the cultivator's body through his pores and wreak havoc within, destroying all life. The purple snakes could riddle his organs with holes and enter his bloodstream, heart, and consciousness, destroying his essence spirit directly. Every cultivator would endure immense pain and torture before they died. As long as a purple snake burrowed into a cultivator, they would not be able to escape death. Furthermore, they were surrounded by so many purple snakes. A series of tragic cries sounded from the back. The two perfected immortals, Xie Tianhong and the others, turned back and could not help but feel fear when they saw a group of cultivators being attacked by the purple snakes and dying. Hurry, don't fall behind. Perfected immortal Jing, you realized that the cultivators who were attacked by the purple snakes were the ones at the back. For example, they were at the front and did not encounter the encirclement of the purple snakes. Everyone had ugly expressions as they released their blood chi and released all their strength to chase after Su Zimo. As time passed by, the number of cultivators that were left behind increased. Su Zimo was the Green Lotus True Body and had a strong physique. Even after a long journey, his breathing was steady and he had a calm expression. However, although the heaven immortal experts chasing after him had high cultivation realms, their physiques were far inferior to the Green Lotus True Body. Avici was shrouded by a sinister aura at all times. They were extremely tense, and coupled with the long journey, it took a huge toll on them. Before long, the cultivators left behind at the back would be targeted and killed by the purple snakes in this hell. After a few hours, without the need for Su Zimo to move a single finger, of the more than 400 heaven immortal experts that chased after him, only dozens were left. The other cultivators were all dead. The remaining cultivators gradually discovered some patterns. Most of the cultivators who died were at the back of the group. Those at the front of the group did not encounter any danger. Although the two perfected immortals were experienced and knowledgeable, they had never experienced such a scene. They did not know why the cultivators at the back would be attacked by the purple snakes. Everywhere in Avici felt sinister. Sensing what was happening behind him, Su Zimo sneered internally. In Avici, the purple snakes would not harm him at all. However, anyone else who was slightly further away from him would be attacked by the purple snakes and die on the spot. Su Zimo was relieved. With the Hell Suppression tripod as his backing, as long as he was careful in Avici and made use of the purple snakes in this hell, he would be invincible. Go away. Right then, a woman hollered from the darkness far away. Su Zimo could only hear it clearly because he was the Grade 11 Green Lotus True Body. That voice sounded familiar. Su Zimo frowned slightly and slowed down. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.